hide and speak.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for showing up. We are vp.net. We're here doing the stream of Hide and Speak. We stream every Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Our topics are privacy, free speech, internet freedom, freedom in general. We just want to get down to the truth. If you have a question for us at any time, just type capital Q, colon, and then ask your question right there, and we can pop it up on stream. What you can expect from us is we don't really talk politics, no religion, left, right. It's all the same to us. The opinions voiced here are not a reflection of vp.net or Hide and Speak. We are what we say is of our own. So I just want to say hello, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Shane. I'm the Chief Operating Officer, and we have I think we're going to have a great stream today. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Shane. Thanks for asking. I'm Chris. I'm the CMO for vp.net. I'm really excited for today's stream.
Absolutely. We're all excited here. Nathan, hi. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Creative media specialist for vp.net, and I'm really happy to be here today with everyone, and I'm excited to have our guest on today, Joel.
Happy you're here as well. And lovely Susie, how are you today?
Doing fantastic today. Can't wait to talk about everything that we want to talk about.
Absolutely. When we get to talking crypto technology, it just makes me all excited inside. It really does. So we want to introduce our special guest today. We have Joel Valenzuela. I hope I said that correctly. He is the business development and marketing for Dash. He has a love of crypto and liberty. He's a digital content creator. Joel, can you introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'll give, I guess, the shorter version. My name is Joel, and I do business development and marketing for Dash currently, as well as my own crypto podcast and other stuff on the side. I've been in crypto about 13 years or so. And for about the last 10 years, I haven't earned fiat currency. I've only been earning crypto. And I've been a liberty lover, kind of ex-politico, kind of in the political sphere, retired, thankfully. And I moved to New Hampshire for the Free State Project in 2013, and I still think it's the best place on earth. So that's kind of the quick summary of my life.
Well, thank you so much for that. It's actually really exciting to hear. You've been living off crypto for this entire for as long as you have. Crypto, like watching it evolve over the years, has just been. I mean, it's had its ups and downs, but for the most part, it's a really great thing, I think, for humanity. It really opens up so many doors to how technology can operate, and just seeing what goes underneath the hood is just it's like watching masterminds at work when I see people working with crypto. So thank you for being here. We have a load of questions for you. Like we just want to see what really it's we want everybody to be as excited about this as we are. So we'll go ahead and start that. You've lived on crypto since 2015. What was the catalyst for that? And how does the current Dash evolution experience compare to those early days of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to point to one catalyst only. I've kind of always grown up with a little bit of a skepticism towards central bank currency from being a small child. Growing up in the north of Mexico, I cleaned out my deceased grandmother's house, and she had a bunch of old coins. I would ask my mother, what are these? And they're like, oh, they're pesos, but they don't work anymore. Like, why don't they work anymore? Because the peso died a few years ago, and there's a new one. So I mean, it can just die. Yep, I guess so. And so being that and being kind of learning about money from an early age, I kind of became drawn to whatever you'd call gold bug dumb back in the day, of like being precious metal sound money kind of guy. And I was looking for ways to use that in my day-to-day life, which even today might be better, but even back then it was just not very good at all. I like to joke with people that Peter Schiff got me into crypto, which is semi-true because he had a gold-backed debit card at his former bank, Euro Pacific Bank, and I was trying to get access to that because I thought it'd be so cool to just, instead of a bank card, have a bank card where I had gold in my bank account instead. And I thought that was really cool. And by the time I could kind of figure out how to do that, by that time I had already learned about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies and just started, and that was just way easier and more accessible. So that's just kind of how the rabbit hole started. I heard about, I think I've been talking about Bitcoin since like 2012. I got my first middle of 2015, messing up all my dates today, middle of 2013. Someone paid me back for a pizza that we shared, which is funny if you know Bitcoin lore. And that's kind of how I got my first Bitcoin. It was like 0.15 Bitcoin or something. And by the end of that year, it was worth a decent amount of money. And I just used, did whatever odd jobs pay me in that for, a couple years, but I still had my day job. And at the middle end of 2015, I just decided this is what I want to do. I just want to get all into this. And I didn't know how. So I just thought, well, why don't I just refuse all work that pays me in dollars and only get paid in crypto and see how that turns out. And after about a week of panicking after I made that decision, I found a job with Cointelegraph writing crypto news articles. And that kind of got me kicked off on it. But yeah, there wasn't one catalyst for like the full migration. It just became, I kind of found myself talking about the cool technology and telling too many people about it and hyping it up too much for my own level of comfort, considering my distance. Like if I'm real about this, I might as well go all in. And so I kind of went all in, and there's been nothing that's quite as good of a teacher as that.
Absolutely, and that's the thing, is that's what teaches us, is you just got to get hands-on and get into it. And that is something I learned later on. With watching the development of coin over these years, we've seen a lot. We've all seen a lot. I'm sure you've written a lot. I'm sure you've experienced a lot of it yourself. Some of the earliest Bitcoin entrepreneurs faced serious and legal political pushback. How did watching that unfold influence your own decision to live on crypto and support decentralized systems?
Well, sorry about that. I didn't really think too much about that other than there might be consequences down the road. So at a certain time, there's always a push and pull between what you can do, I guess. Well, legally is not the right way of phrasing it, but what you can do without direct pushback from a government, and what you can. And at some point, to make a difference, you have to kind of step outside of the comfort zone. And there's been a lot of disruptive companies like Uber, for example, famously did this and ended up being a very legally enshrined entity around the world, and really did change the world in a lot of ways, but had some risks in the early days. So I kind of viewed this from day one as a radical departure from anything government sanctioned, kind of. Not necessarily anything illegal, but explicitly illegal, but I kind of understood that this is not something that we're doing this as a form of resistance, of building something completely new and outside the government's control. And that's kind of the understanding I had from day one. Everyone, as far as I know, back then had the same understanding, where most people did. It's so, if I'm going to be completely honest, and it sounds a little maybe weird saying this as someone who has had actual friends and contacts go to prison for crypto related things, I think the pushback has been extremely light over the years. Like in our mind, we had this like crypto crackdown coming, and maybe it's still on the horizon, I don't know, but we had this sort of idea that if once this gets big, people are going to ban it. It'll be explicitly outlawed. You're going to have to trade in private. You're going to have to go completely underground, and eventually, kind of like the cannabis movement, for example, just kind of live in that situation, that tension, until finally the state relents. And the state didn't do anything for the most part in the US for many years. And yes, there have been some arrests, there have been some crackdowns. We really saw some under the last administration, where it finally seemed like there was a target, like an effort to go after a whole bunch of companies and development projects and things like that all at the same time. And that kind of got radically reversed at the beginning of 2025. And so I think there's always going to be some sort of a push and pull between that, but we haven't seen like a wide scale war or ban kind of on crypto.
And that's I was technology always moves faster than legislation, and right now it's like, well, I mean, we can see the government, I think, kind of adopted it now. Like, I mean, Trump came out with his Trump coin like in his first day of presidency. So watching it evolve over the years it's been kind of special for me as well. Nathan and Susie and Chris, feel free to join in on, like, if you just have anything to chime in with this. You guys have also watched these technologies bloom over the years and watched as people adopted them. We've watched people get rich off of crypto. I've seen 18-year-olds riding around in Ferraris in Los Angeles. So these technologies don't just offer one thing; they offer so much more. Dash is widely recognized as the first functional DAO. And for the audience out there, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. I like to think of it as you have a board of directors, they all make the decision for whatever's needed in an organization or a company, and you can move forward with these things. You can see the execution happening in real time because the decisions are being made and everything is transparent and everybody votes with a token. And it's a secure voting mechanism. So think like having stocks, and then you have the absolute ability to make a decision on anything that comes up, and then it changes the sway of the organization. That's the best way I can describe it to other people. I could be wrong, because that's the thing is with the DAO, it is so much more complex than what meets the eye. And I hope that you can maybe fill us in on that. Dash is widely recognized as the first functional DAO. Looking back to those early days, what was the primary motivation for building a self-funding treasury rather than a traditional foundation model used by Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Yeah, and so I have to admit I was not there in those exact early days. I've been involved in some way with the Dash community since 2016. So there was about 2 years in the beginning where a lot of this foundational stuff kind of got worked out. But a lot of that is there's the reality behind everything is right. There is some sort of a funding model to anything. Any work costs money, and there's only so many volunteer hours, and just at some point you have to fund a project. And any company understands this. Any centralized company understands you need startup capital to investment to get everything off the ground. Now, with crypto, Bitcoin had some interesting situation where, first of all, I think Satoshi acted under these sort of same pretenses I did when coming to crypto, in that this could be wildly illegal and we could all go to prison for this. And so kind of with that thought in mind, launched it anonymously, completely open in public, and just no funding, no VC money, no anything like that. Just kind of get it out there, and that we know of course. There's a lot that's shrouded in mystery, right? So this gets out there, and then all other crypto projects, kind of thanks to this great example, follow suit and try to create something completely from scratch. But you can't, because you need money to sustain a project. So projects do a bunch of different little things to try to make it work. Sometimes they just launch a project and then try to get donations to keep running it. And then there was a lot of, in the early days, sort of sleight of hand moves. I don't know how controversial it is to say stuff like that, but for example, when Litecoin started, there was an inflation bug in the very early days where a lot of the coins that were created we went straight up on the first day. And so whoever was mining on the first day got a lot more than other people. And when Dash was forked from Litecoin, the only reason I know about this is because after Dash was forked from Litecoin, that same bug, which I've heard rumors might not have been unintentional, might have been intentional, kind of happened in the early days as well. And so then there were other projects such as, let's say, Digibyte and Decred. Some of these other ones had an explicit thing called a pre-mine, where some of the coins were given to the founder at the very beginning. And within those two cases, by the way, it was done in a very open and transparent way of if you're going to use this network, we want a little bit to start it off. But there was a lot of taboo around that. So this was before Ethereum started the ICO craze, and then no one really cared about how grassroots things were in the beginning. So at some point, there was a Dash Foundation in the early days, and it didn't really catch on too well. Just wasn't a lot of funding. And so Dash's founder, Evan Duffield, thought, well, what if we just took part of the network is paying miners, but then we're using a second layer of nodes called master nodes to run other things like privacy functionality and instant transaction settlement and stuff like that. So why don't we if we need development, why don't we have the network pay for that as well? And then it's like, well, how can you do it in an equitable way? Well, just the stakeholders of the network can vote for where the money goes. And that is still something that I think is very rare in top crypto projects today. Very few of the top, let's say 100, 200 coins have an explicit voting mechanism for governance, but also for fund distribution. And the one thing that's it's not 100% unique with Dash anymore. It started with Dash, but you have projects like, for example, Decred has a continual issuance. So does, for example, Zcash. They have a very different setup, but still a continual payment, which kind of incentivizes you to continue to make reasonable funding decisions as time goes on. Whereas most of the other projects, even the ones that have some sort of built-in voting mechanism and fund distribution, have a big old pot of money that they got. And so they either can spend like drunken sailors, or, you know, they can just not, or they could go broke if they spend it all and then it's just gone. So this continual drip as part of the network was a unique thing to Dash, at least. And I think it was just, there weren't big multi-sig kind of things in token offerings. That was just later. So it just made, the one way everyone got coins from a network was through, you know, mining or staking, and it just comes out in every block. And so I think that, if I were to guess, I think that's what made it, this situation, the way it was. But it ended up being just a very, in my opinion, very elegantly designed system. And I'm not sure it's in its final form. I think that there's always things you can fix, but I think it stood the test of time for, what is it, 11 years straight?
That sounds about right with the timelines. And yeah, I started working on things, I'd say about 6 years ago, when Zcash, maybe it was a little more than 6 years ago, when Zcash was just making this introduction, and to see the possibilities for everything with that, it was inspiring. But here's the thing: I looked at these systems, and my mind I have an engineering mind, and I'm trying to come up with the most perfect system available. Like, what's the most fair? What's the best one that will work for everybody? And it raised a lot of questions. It raised a lot of discussion. You know, we had this internal discussions about the Lightning Network. You know, how can we get, you know, this from point A to point B instantly without having to wait, you know, up to 30 minutes in some cases, or whatever the time frame may be. So I've seen a lot as far as what solutions people have come up with when it comes to the traditional way of doing things. But and then one thing that was always on our minds was the privacy aspect of it. Like, how private are these, right? And as you mentioned, like, you know, like when looking at these things, it's like, wait a second, you know, we're making these things that allow for our own governance, right? It governs itself. And we can do that, you know, with anonymity in mind. We can do it privately. And yeah, you know, it's always that fear that, you know, some black van can roll up on you while you're on the sidewalk eating an ice cream cone, and that's just bye-bye for you, right? And that's a real concern, especially in other countries. So
especially in France these days with crypto.
Yeah, especially in France, right? And I've seen these stories, like, you go check out the news, and it was like one per week, and then you see another scam. But it's, you know, the most amazing technology that's out there, and it's ruined. You know, it's getting bad flack for it because, you know, somebody wanted to, you know, abuse it. And so I've seen a lot. I'm sure many people have seen a lot. So I'm just going to kind of keep my views internal on it, because I want to get all the experience and wisdom that I can get from, you know, somebody such as yourself, you know, that understand the very complex systems that just live underneath the hood with this technology. And that's the thing, is like, I've looked at it and I'm like, this is the most amazing thing ever. We're going to use this. And then it's almost like instantly, like I find something new, and it's like, oh, wow, well, they solved this guy's problem, but these guys haven't solved this guy's problem, or this guy, you know, they solve each other's problems. And then one becomes its own, you know, unique ecosystem, is what I want to say about it.
Yeah.
We have some special guests coming up, or I wouldn't say special guests, but we have some guests that are friends of the community joining us. We have Sims here, and we will have another gentleman joining us here shortly. So I will continue on, but go ahead and say hello, Sims.
Well, he certainly looks
mean-
majestic, even if he's not talking.
Yeah, so he's just getting his setup all figured out. So you'll have to unmute your microphone there, Sims. But we'll come back to it as you play with the controls and get that set up. It's probably on a mobile device. Let's talk a bit about Dash and privacy, and that's the biggest thing that we've looked into over these years is the privacy aspect that these technologies afford us. Dash's privacy was traditionally based on CoinJoin, which is private send. Why the shift now to integrate Zcash Orchard technology? What does this shielded pool do that the old system couldn't?
Yeah, now this is there's some short answers to this, but I might have to go start at the beginning about, back at the beginning of time or whatever. So Dash's first feature was privacy, was this integrated CoinJoin, which for the viewers at home just means if I got money, you got money, and everyone got money, you split it all up into pieces, you shuffle it all around. So I still have the same amount. Everyone still has the same amount, but no one can tell necessarily where it came from. It was someone amongst those people. And so even though everything on the network is fully transparent, you would do what you call breaking the transaction graph, where people can't follow where things go. And it was basically the best in class privacy feature at the time in 2014. Dash is the oldest privacy coin in the world. Maybe the first one was probably Bytecoin, but Bytecoin's not really maintained today. Monero had a similar sort, but same but different privacy function called ring signatures, where basically there was a real signature and a few decoys, and when you sent, you couldn't necessarily tell which one it was. In 2017, Monero added something called confidential transactions, which when you combined those two, it made it a lot harder to trace. And so starting around 2015, Dash got its branding from Darkcoin to Dash, and the focus was on all kinds of things necessary for digital cash, for something that actually works. Obviously, privacy is a good part of it, but part of it is also scalability. Part of it is also instant transaction finalities. Part of it's also security, like a hybrid security model, and then usability. And there's a whole bunch of other things that were worked on all these years. It's so the Dash's privacy function was improved over the years, as in kind of getting tune-ups here and there, but not significantly overhauled. And there was also a time, I would say probably around 2019 to 2022, like that era right there, where Dash was, of all the cryptocurrencies that had privacy functions built in, it was the one that had the most extensive exchange listing and in kind of like in the light presence. At the same time as delistings were happening, there was a lot of privacy coins getting delisted from exchanges. And so the community was freaking out a little bit, because I think Dash was the most affected. There were other coins that had it as well, such as Zcash and Monero, but they were never on as many exchanges to begin with. So there was less, it was like less of a significant problem for the community. And one of the figureheads, especially who was stewarding the community a lot back then, kind of wanted to really help mainstream adoption be reached. And so started to like try to downplay privacy, not get rid of the functionality, but just downplay it in the public eye, rename it in ways that made it sound less scary. Just try to like do stuff to stay in the kind of more regulated theater of things. And I don't really think that ended up working out, but also for other reasons, he ended up leaving the project anyway. And since then, there's been like a kind of a return sort of to principles on things. And I, in particular, pushed very hard for some privacy overhauls. And the way things are now is it's going to be so much easier to explain, I think, in like 6 months from now or a year. There's some things that are up in the air. So basically, what I did is I pushed very hard for and got a DAO proposal passed to integrate confidential transactions at the protocol level, which would mean amounts could be hidden from transactions. So you combine that with the CoinJoin functionality. Not only does it happen very much faster, but the level of privacy is so much better. It's more on par with something like Monero today, or possibly better, for example. And so I got a donation from a nonprofit to get work on this, because the existing DAO resources are all kind of on the main event, which is the Evolution Network, this new decentralized application chain, etc. And so I'm like, well, I want to improve privacy on the core chain as well. So let's work on this. And then a few weeks ago, we kind of had all these discussions on how things would happen. But the lead developer, Quantum Explorer, gave me a message early in the morning. It was like, hey, I managed to get Zcash's zero knowledge encrypted privacy working on the evolution chain. And then I'm like, that is a massive achievement that came out of nowhere. So this is one of those things that sort of caught me by surprise. I wasn't anticipating this. And it causes a lot of chaos in mostly a good way, I would say, because it's like you just get dropped a present. And so to understand, and anytime I'm rambling, by the way, just let me know if you want something more concise. I'm just going to keep going otherwise.
Oh, no. Feel free to ramble.
No,
That's
you're good.
the whole goal behind this is and I'll tell you why the
It's very
rambling is so good.
valuable.
It is.
Yeah,
It's very valuable. And that's the thing, Joel, is when I look at these things, especially working at operations level, I have to look at how it all comes together, right? And we see the most magnificent scientific minds that are working on the technology behind these innovations, right? And then we have the other side, which is like the people that maybe don't understand what the technology is or does. Half the time when I'm talking to somebody, especially about technology, they turn their head sideways. They look at me like I'm speaking Chinese or rocket science or both. And that's the thing is that these things are really cool, and it's really fun when you do look into it, because you see, hey, why isn't the world actually implementing this like right now, like with the world being as crazy as it is? And that's what I'm looking for really with DAO is how can we integrate those scientific minds as the community comes to these platforms, comes to these technologies, and learn in a way that makes sense to them. How can we onboard more people that may not be as smart as the engineers and the engineering that are behind it, right? And there is a lot of engineering that goes into this, a lot of thought process, a lot of solutions being made for things that people haven't even thought of yet. And that's the beauty of it, is that these these solve so many problems. They bring on so many use cases and open up so many doors for other technologies. So we have some other guests joining us as well. We have Christopher Chalone. He works with a lot with Solana. He is the founder of ShadowRanch.xyz, in which he attempts, he's working to empower others with the cypherpunk movement and give people the ability to learn and have fun while learning, cryptography, learning these decentralized solutions. So, Christopher, welcome, and if you could just give us a little brief rundown of what you're working on and how you're doing today.
What's up, everybody? Chris, what's up, Joel? Just having fun listening to the lore here. I'm just gonna kick back. I got a couple questions after everything, if I could sneak them in at some point. But yeah, I'm having a good time just listening right now.
Absolutely. Anytime you guys want to join in or ask a question, you guys aren't interrupting or anything, and don't feel like you're ranting. That's the thing. That's the point, is to give people a voice. And even coming on the show, if anybody wants to join the show, feel free. We'll post a link here. You can be anonymous and have a voice. And there's just so much to say. So little time to say it all, but I think it's a wonderful thing if we can have these really cool things and other people can see that they're cool too. That's cool to me. And then we have Sims here as well. He's a longtime friend of us. He's with the communities that we work with. He sees a lot of me working on technology, and he's in awe sometimes about some of the things that I do. And these are just minuscule things compared to what you and Christopher could do, Joel. Sims, can you say hello?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Absolutely, we can hear you. It's nice to see you, buddy.
Good to see you too.
Can you give us a little bit about yourself, Sims? Like, what's your thoughts on privacy in today's world?
It's hard to say. I just don't believe that there is any privacy in the world today, because it's not just like what we do in our own personal lives, but it's just like as I walk my dog in the morning, everybody around me has a Ring camera. And because they share that information with Planeteer or whatever you call it, like the big conglomerates, it's almost like we're being traced. And the only thing we can kind of do is how much of our personal information that we manage. But even like if I go to my friends' houses, they have their Alexas, their Siris, everything's just constantly recording. You know, like my car knows who I'm fucking, and it's just like the whole world is like, there's no privacy.
Yeah, it does, and it does, and it can, everything's a data point out
Well
there.
said.
And
Yeah.
we've had these streams in the past with Flock, and we just had the Flock
Yeah.
CLO on with us as well. Because we wanted to hear their side of the story. What the level of privacy is at the world. There's times, Mr. Miller and Nathan and Susie, we do get bombarded with just how much is going on, and it's like it does feel like there's no privacy out there. But that's the thing, is you can have privacy in your own atmosphere and create awesome and amazing things. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that we can have this atmosphere. We just need to be aware of what's going on, but also be aware of what solutions are out there. It's not just about Ring, it's not just about Flock and these cameras being stuck around everywhere. And like my car outside, it tells me like the weight when you sit on the seat, like it's all these things are recorded when you get in your vehicle. I mean, the little OnStar stuff can turn your vehicle on, wherever you're at in the world. So it's all I can say is it's crazy and it's bullshit. So there are avenues to where it's not so crazy and it's not so much bullshit. Just want to say thank you for being here.
You'll hear people like talking about Flock, and they're talking about Ring, and they're like Google spying on everything we do, and then they pull out their Visa card, and they go and they run it, and they're using some deal finding website, and it's like every single purchase they make anywhere is all tracked, logged, analyzed, and sold, while they're complaining about Ring doorbells. And it's like,
and their AirTags.
Doorbell information is a lot less valuable than what you're willingly handing over, which is why we need things like that and stuff. So
for sure. I mean, I'm kind of like, I try to avoid technology. I do have the VPN and stuff, but for the most part, I drive cars that I can fix with like a size 17, 19, and 13 spanner. So I use analog cars, but then I do have an iPhone watch and an iPhone. So I feel also I don't have much that the government cares about either.
Yeah, I feel so much more comfortable that my dad had a truck for the last 20 years. It was the same truck, and the whole family, everyone in the family had it. Now my son has it, and it's a dump truck. There's nothing technical about it that he didn't put in himself. He knows that the whole thing in and out, and I feel comfortable that my kid's not being tracked or pinged every freaking 5 seconds, aside from maybe his phone. It makes you feel a little better, but what about
Isn't it ironic?
cars,
Isn't it ironic that the smartphones, smart cars, they're actually the dumb version because you're dumb for using them, but the smart one is, I wanted to get a 1968 Impala, right?
My thing is when the car's smart. Sorry, when the car's smart, then you can be dumb,
right?
And when the car's dumb, you have to be smart. That's what I choose.
Yes.
But I tried getting a dumb phone, but I couldn't, like go around the green bubbles and without like using Apple Pay, which the other gentleman was saying like my phone tracks every single purchase, every single coffee shop. And I think they could track who you were hanging out with years ago.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I would say something about privacy in general. It's such a multi-layered thing. First of all, how much you're disclosing is like, it's not a binary. It's not the government knows everything, everyone knows everything, or no one knows nothing. Both of those things are not true usually. And then when you do disclose some things, it's the matter of who knows it and how easy is it to connect those dots. And so there's a lot you can do to just completely remove a lot of this data from the obvious sources. And then other times, there's some things that are harder to do, but it's even if you make people work hard for it. That's the thing, is when if you have some kind of like a high level state actor trying to find things out about you and they know who they're looking for, there's just not a lot you can hide from that. But
they're gonna get it.
There's just a massive, like almost every person on the planet is under that, is below that, is just like not of interest to governments, but also like the average data broker out there just doesn't even know. It's just like they just eat up data everywhere, munch, just take it all up, and then they just do with it what they can. But if they don't have that data, they don't even think to look for it, because they're just like, I don't have that data, I'm just going to use what I have. And there's just so much you can do to just remove that from a lot of people and entities in your life, and it can really make a big difference.
Do you think
that's go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, do you think it helps to like not have any Wi-Fi routers in your house?
Well, there is an ultimate sort of trade-off when you do anything. And so I love freedom more than anything, basically. Freedom is the freedom to live life as you want. There is an ironic thing where sometimes in the pursuit of greater freedom, you can limit your own freedom. Yeah. So, for example, I know some people that don't have birth certificates even. They just don't exist. They're completely off the grid. But then they can't travel internationally, for example, or they have to be very careful with how they drive, to not get pulled over and things. And then that's a objective limit of freedom, just in the pursuit of greater freedom. But then they don't pay taxes. That's kind of awesome. So there's, depending on what you do. So I think that, I guess my philosophy is, generally speaking, you start from a privacy perspective, is you just start with like a normal life, and then just like do the private version of everything you can in your normal life that you want to do. And then some things have to be cut out, and you just decide what you want to cut out and what you don't want to cut out. And then you just live a happy life. And so like, for example, I know a lot of people that don't touch like smart devices at all. They just, I have a flip phone or whatever. They don't have a phone at all. I know people that do that. And in the modern age, I think that's kind of a little crazy. But so what I do is I have a de-Googled phone. I run Graphene OS and open source everything on there. And obviously there must be some data leakage on some things, but it's very limited. And for me, that's a good trade-off because it works well. I forget that it's different using an Android. This just works, right? It just works fine. And I even have a Graphene devices can't do tap and pay because of Google or whatever. But I do have a Google Sock account that is on a watch that I have that will connect, and I can do tap and pay through that. And the card that's in that is not associated to any identity to mine, for example. It's private, doesn't have any documentation on it. So I get to still live in the normal world the way normal people do in a lot of ways, but then also not have these massive privacy trade-offs, at least in this area. And then there's a lot of conflation between privacy and open source technology and decentralized / permissionless technology. Those are three very different things, maybe, but they overlap a whole lot. And so you can live very privately where you can. Sometimes you can't, but then you can always use like free open source software where just anyone can kind of use it. And then you can also use, which is what I prefer with crypto, that's why I like that, is stuff that can't really be taken down by governments, or they can't censor your ability to use it. And so sometimes you have to use something that is, sometimes people know what you're doing but can't really stop you, and that's better than the opposite, right?
Yeah, I think so too. And really it all comes down to what Satoshi pushed for us. It comes down to balance, right? What is the balance between privacy and how you interact in the real world? But everything takes balance, right? And that there's a push globally for identity, right? We all need to show our IDs. We all have to submit to some identification process just to use the normal everyday things that we utilize in society. And that's the thing too, is like, where is the balance when everybody else is doing this in society, and then you kind of have to because it's what everybody does, right? But I think that's what the most important thing is, with any identity, is that there are people like us that are aware of these things, and if we did exactly what society does every day, then I feel like sometimes we're part of the problem rather than the solution, and I would rather be a part of the solution rather than the problem. So when I introduce these technologies, especially the DAO and just trying to get people onboarded and up to speed with these things, they see an identifier, they see a long hash, this is somebody's wallet or some kind of signature to indicate that this is a secure vote from this person. You don't need to know who that person is. You just need to know that they voted and that they voted on something. And then, they can even have a voice or an opinion, but it's just one of those things. It's like, it's really hard to attach mentally, an ID to somebody that you're interacting with online. Let alone the real world. Like if I walked up to you and I told you my name is EACBF64, that's you're gonna look at me like I'm nuts. So the thing is,
I think you're Elon Musk's kid.
Oh yeah. So my name is that he's got some funny names there. But here's the thing: is with identity, it comes down to, if you ever seen the movie The Matrix, there's a difference between our digital selves and our real selves, right? You can be involved with some really cool stuff online and be a part of some cool online communities. But then in the real world, you're just, you're you, but in the real world, there's no digital self that exists there. Especially when you go to the library or you go out to eat, it's two different things. So I have another question for you. How does the Dash Evolution platform with human readable usernames balance ease of use with this new high level privacy?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, with the evolution chain, you have the ability to register a username. Mine is the same as you see on the screen here, by the way. And you can also add someone as a contact to your contact list. And these are two things that people do all the time in any digital thing. They add someone as a contact in their phone, and you know what the name of the person is. It's like, oh, this is, whatever the name is. And then they're in your contacts, and then that's just the way things work. So now this works like that in that Dash network as well. You can add someone as a username, by their username to your contact list, and then if you lose your phone or whatever, you restore it with just your private keys, your crypto keys, your backup. Then everything comes back with it. It's your username is still there. All your friends' usernames are there. Your contact list is there too, so you don't have to remember, oh, who do I have to add again? It's all backed up there, as well as if you want to, you can do encrypted metadata behind your transactions where you say, like, this was for coffee, thanks, whatever, and that's attached to your transactions. And so if you lose all that, and you're like, what was this for? I don't even remember. Or you lose your Excel spreadsheet you have on the side that you use to record all this, it's all kind of attached to that. So it feels like a real modern system rather than some weird ugly hack thing. And typically what we have in crypto as well as in just life, right, is we have this interplay between how real is this, like secure, decentralized, permissionless, open source, whatever, and then how easy is it to use. And a lot of times there's a massive trade-off when you go in one direction or another. You want something to be private, it's going to suck to use. You want something to be easy to use, it's spying on you. Like there's always this kind of interplay. And I kind of feel like what we're trying to do is make that not be a thing you have to really, a trade-off you have to make, where you can have maximum level usability on a system that is completely yours and ownable by you and not censorable.
Absolutely. And wow, you're just you make it so clear, and I wish I could speak like you when other people are talking to me about these types of things. Let's go ahead and open it up for questions.
I think it's so important. Like the average person, like crypto, like you said, having this long, confusing thing is just like, my mother's never going to do that. You know what I mean? But like my mother can wrap her head around usernames. Like she's on Facebook all day talking to usernames. You know what I mean? So like, I think like that's a huge step in the right direction for like mass adoption and getting the average person to jump in. Because like you're not getting my mother to do crypto like the old school way. It's just not going to happen. You know?
Yeah, it's one of those things where like we're evolving to the technology to actually work in the real world. And like I remember in the early days before seed phrases, like when you had like a encrypted file you have to back up somewhere, or people printed out a paper wallet, and there's a bunch of things like that that was really terrible. People complain about seed phrases today, which is like the 12 to 24 word recovery phrase you write down with a pen and paper. They complain about that today without remembering how much of an improvement that is, that finally you just can memorize or write down, hopefully securely, like 12 words, and then that just gets you in whatever. But even then, I still remember, again, I got my mother on board, and I was having her set up a hardware wallet, and she was looking through, and I said, okay, now you're going to, it was like a Zoom call, it was like a distant thing, and I'm setting her up with this, and then I'm like, all right, now you got to write down the words, the 24 words. She says, I already did. Like, what do you mean you did? We didn't get to this step yet. Well, I already did. Well, but you didn't get them until like right now. There are these words. No, I wrote down my own. I'm like, oh, mother, that's not how it works. You can't just come up with random words and then that'll get your money back. You have to do the ones that gave it to you. And just these frictions won't work. But this is something that I think is not entirely solved yet. I think that just about every piece required to solve this exists already, but just not together. And this is something else. Like I have to add this to the list of side quests I want to do. But there's 3 big problems with crypto recovery type things. One is it's a pain because you have to like write things down. Now there are some companies like OneKey and Ledger which do have these recovery NFC cards, so it's a little card that you can just, if you lose everything, instead of going in and typing in the 24 words or whatever, you can just tap a card and it repopulates your keys and you're in. So that's great, number 1. Number 2, you need some kind of a 2-factor authentication style thing for everything. And that's kind of what a hardware wallet is. It's not like a secure storage. It's just an extra step in case someone gets control over your phone or something, or your computer, there hacks you. That's like an extra thing that just gets you in. We already have a few of those. There's a company called Zipto, and they have a great wallet, and they have a steel card that you can tap to authenticate a transaction, and the private keys are half on the card, half on the phone. So if someone steals your phone, they can't make purchases without you. And the part that's tricky, the trickiest, is it's not losing your keys, it's getting them compromised. Where if you lose your stuff and you can find where you back them up, you get them back. That's fine. But if someone steals it, stealing your money is the least of your worries, maybe, because what if you're starting to use your crypto keys to authenticate things as your replacement for like your Google account and stuff? And so you can't just start over. It's just, they got you, they can represent you, get access to all your stuff. There's another app called Voltiseg, like with a V, that lets you do, like, it's called a threshold signature wallet, that basically it splits your key amongst a few different pieces. And more importantly, if someone gets access to it, if you have enough remaining pieces, you can revoke those pieces and reform them. And so I think when you start to combine all these pieces of technology together, we finally get a system that will work for average people, where they can just have like one wallet, one set of keys, and they can use it. They're not going to get wrecked. They can back it up. And if someone gets in there, maybe they can't get their money back, but they can get their actual account back. And I think that's another thing I've been harassing people on about in the background, about build this, do this. And everyone's working on so many things. I can't get everyone together at the same time. But I think in the next 5 years, we're staring at mass adoption of cryptocurrencies. And the way it will happen will be determined by the stuff we build today. People will have backup things that just make sense. They will have usability, be able to spend it anywhere they want instead of like a card. They will have the ability to just send to a username and add contacts. They will have all this stuff, but they might have it in a way where it's completely controlled by a company. And we don't want that. So if we build it in a decentralized way now, we get to determine what's the standard of what people do. And I have good feelings about our chances, but it's a lot of work ahead of us.
It is a lot of work ahead of us. And that's it's the beautiful part, and it's also the scary part, right? And yeah, it is scary because I think a lot about identity. And if somebody gets their keys stolen, yeah, you use these to access other platforms or access other services, or even authenticate yourself to do things on these platforms and services. Now somebody has they don't just have your money, they have your entire life. They can now do things as you, and then they can also send messages as you. They can post as you. They own your life, and that's the scariest part about it. So I would say there is a lot of work for us all to do, and the number one thing, the first step towards all of it, I think best is awareness, right? And that's not just awareness, but also seeing how these technologies work and why they can be utilized in such a fashion. Because these technologies exist for a reason. If Google and Apple, if they wanted to implement these things, they could, but then they still own your identity because they have everything on you. They know everything you do. And that's the thing is, instead of logging in with Gmail accounts or logging in with other accounts, it makes sense. I wish we could phase the logging in with keys into everything, make that the norm. That's just me. That's how I would go about it. When I connect to a server and do Linux things, basic sysadmin stuff, I SSH in with my SSH key. I don't use passwords, right? A password can be brute force, it can be guessed. Nobody's going to guess a 348 character string. It's not going to. It's just not going to happen, right? Not in this universe, at least not yet. Before quantum technology. So I have some more questions here. We have an intermission coming up. Mr. Chaloni, I know you had a question. I work a lot with infrastructure, and Mr. Chaloni and I have been discussing things. Mr. Chaloni, can you go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah, I was just curious because I know Dash has just come out with the new privacy feature or a new way of implementing it. Are they having a hackathon to bring more application developers in, using this particular feature, or is that something that's going to be happening soon?
Yeah, so this feature has been successfully tested. We're looking, it hasn't been released on mainnet yet. Hopefully a month, right? Depends. And it's hard to give those kinds of estimates, but like the developer who got this done, this should be like many months / years of work, but he got a working demo in like 11 days of working like a beast. And thankfully we have a genius working for us. So again, I don't want to overpromise based on the way that goes, but the fact that it was working, I think that things are going pretty well. So basically once it is done, I think that we already have at least one other wallet that reached out to me to say, hey, how can we start working on this? And so I think that, first of all, I'll definitely make sure all the tools are put out there for everyone to use. But it would be nice to get some, I'm chasing down funding here and there, but it would be great to get some bounties for other open source third-party wallets to start integrating like this. And just kind of get those network effects really going. Because that's one thing that I noticed in crypto is, first of all, no one wants to integrate you unless you're high up the list. Like you're very popular, you're very, like a very popular capitalized project. And the lower you are, the harder it is to get people to do that. But also most apps and services want to do a lazy integration. Almost no service or app integrates more than the base send receive functionality of any crypto, and it takes a lot to get them to do special features. And so for this, it'll be, there'll be some struggle on the way through, but hopefully as we start to see mass adoption get closer, people will start to demand privacy a little bit more. And therefore I think that if you have wallets that don't support private features for the major cryptocurrencies, I don't think they're going to last, and that will sort of do some of our work for us. But in the meantime, be happy to talk to anyone who has any of these sorts of features to help kind of make it a lot more seamless.
And that leads me to our last question here. And you can continue on after this one, Christopher. Is there anything else we should know about Dash's privacy overhaul and plans for the future of Dash?
Yeah, so I didn't quite get done talking about what exactly it will be. So the original plan that I've been working on was the confidential transactions plus a coin join together, which would basically you make things much more private, as I mentioned. Now there's that's on the main chain. There's the other chain that does all the data stuff. That one is getting Zcash Orchard, Zcash based Orchard shielded technology, which would make things much more straightforward from a privacy perspective. First of all, you just move your money into this pool, and then anything from another person who's in the same pool is just like there's no data leakage essentially. There's, on chain there's like nothing. Isn't all you can see on a block explorer is someone sent some money to someone. That's all they know. And so that's going to be very good, a much better user experience, a much higher privacy level than whatever I was considering originally. And when you have these two chains, because Dash has such fast transactions, you could conceivably make a cross-chain hop in a couple seconds. Meaning if some wallet or some service or whatever only supports regular Dash transparent transactions on this chain, you could go from completely private to just bridge out to that address in one transaction in just a couple seconds. In which case, at that point, the original plan I was telling you about, we'll have to figure out what happens with that. But we did vote as a DAO to go with this. Now that things have changed, we might need another vote and just see if the community agrees with, if we could keep that feature on this chain and this one and this one. If we get rid of all privacy features on this chain, then keep the most advanced ones in the world on this chain. And I don't know how it's going to look out. That's why it's messy and confusing right now, but it's messy and confusing because we got a crazy gift from above sort of dropped in our laps just a few weeks ago.
Wonderful. Yeah. And crazy gifts are awesome. They're amazing. Thank you so much for filling us in on all of this. I have some more questions for you, but we're going to lead into an intermission here, and then I'll give you guys all the free chance to ask Joel here any questions. But I'll see you guys in a couple minutes.
Well, I think we're doing the questions first, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do that. Anybody out there, if you have any questions, go ahead and type capital Q, : and then ask your question, and we can select it and pop it up on screen. We have a question here from Ecstatic J. Jonathan, nice to see you again. He asked, how do you know the hardware wallet isn't compromised when you purchase it? Good question.
Yeah, so it really depends, because hardware wallets, it's actually a very broad category of devices, right? But typically, they are released with tamper-proof packaging, and there are some that just can be independently verified through other things. There's usually those kinds of things, but basically, the correct way of doing things is to get a hardware wallet directly from the manufacturer or from a certified reseller. And when you see it, make sure that when you receive it, you make sure the package hasn't been tampered with, any of that kind of stuff. That's the best way of doing things. I would honestly add a couple of security things to that. First, I would get a separate address, PO box, whatever. And if there is a certified reseller you trust, I would get it from them rather than the manufacturer. And the reason for that is there have been some hacks of customer data from these manufacturers, especially Ledger. And then some hacker just knows all these people that own a not insignificant amount of crypto. They just know their home addresses. And that is crazy, because then you could just have people show up at your home and rob you. And so that's kind of what happened in France, from my understanding, that there was some tax records that were hacked from the government for crypto owners specifically. And so some hacker now just knows everyone who had to pay a bunch of taxes because of their crypto. And then a bunch of violence happened as a result of that. So I would just be very careful. And that's one of those things, like having a separate mailbox, especially that's not in your own name, that's in some other thing. If you can get a private mailbox that's not literally right in your exact town and neighborhood, I would probably do that and get most things delivered there, so you don't just tell everyone where you live when you buy something.
And that's something that Susie and I discuss a lot as well. How much is tied to our names, and there's people that where we live here in Hawaii that they completely live off grid. They You know, they don't want anything to do with anybody, and you know, rightfully so. You know, some people they want to live those types of lives, and so
As
yeah.
a matter, yeah,
Go ahead,
no,
Stevie.
as a matter of fact, there's down in a town called Ocean View is very widely known to be where a lot of witness protection people go. And so there's towns around here where if you don't want to be found, that's where you go.
Yeah. So when you say a private mailbox, you're talking about like one of those private PO box sort of
You
places.
pick it up at the post office type of situation.
Yeah.
Like we don't even have mail running here.
Yeah, something that's not in your name necessarily.
Yeah. And then
Yeah, probably like what, using it through proxy, somebody else's name, and then you just have it shipped there, and then you know somebody helping you out.
Yeah,
That's
because
the thing
they
is
could
they
just
make
Google Street View you as soon as they get your address, Street View.
So you
Yeah.
just set up a pseudonym and everything. Interesting.
And you can.
Yeah,
There's ways to do it. I would suggest the legal route to do things though. For obvious reasons and stuff. You know, the black van will show up at some point, and the men in black hop out. But that's the thing too, I don't think most people want to live a private life like that because they're in fear of these types of things, or they're necessarily doing anything illegal.
Yeah.
A lot of my concern is in information security is, you know, I say no information is, you know, the best security, but that's just not how it is. It's you know, working in information security, it's, you know, when it comes to things like nation states and governments and these corporations, these are all just one thing, right? What I'm worried about is when this data gets leaked out there, like as you just mentioned, Joel, with like you know, in France, you know, I guess there was a riot. You know, after all this tax information got stolen, now everybody that's working crypto, you know, they get, you know, that's on the government there, right? They should have had that information secured, and it shouldn't have gotten out there, right? It's if you want to live a life in crypto and stuff, that's between, you know, you and the world. And so whatever my opinions on that are, you know, and why they may have rioted or had a big issue with that, I would also have a big issue with that, right? And I think you know, these are issues that are happening globally, right? I think Donald Trump is trying to sue the U.S. government because somebody leaked his tax records, right? But and it's one of those things is that's why we work with zero trust architecture is who can you trust? What can you trust? And I think a lot of people that live off grid as well and have this lifestyle, they don't trust anybody or anything. You know, we live in a world where one guy has his hand in the next guy's pocket, right? It's you know, the way things aren't how they should be, and how they should be, I think, can be discussed at a later time. But
if I could jump in here quick, just for one question for Joel here with Dash, you know. So Dash was doing decentralized treasury and voting before, you know, DAO really became even a word or a term. What's the single most important governance lesson that you learned, you know, going through this process? You know, obviously, I'm sure you've had mistakes and good things that have come out of things. And what have you learned to teach other people about having a DAO system?
Yeah, we'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, I would just say I like to use the phrase DAO or die, which is not maybe a little bit aggressive, but I do think that there are consequences for not having a built-in governance system if you have like some truly decentralized thing. And so, yeah, you want to chime in on that?
No, sorry, these guys know I'm not very tech illiterate, so the jargon of DAO, what does that mean?
It's a decentralized autonomous organization.
Okay.
And so that means it's a group, it's a thing that is those three things.
Okay.
It's decentralized, which means no one person runs it, and you can't dictate who can and can't be part of the group. If someone wants to show up, you just show up and participate according to certain criteria, of course, but it's not like there's someone gating it. Yeah. Autonomous means that it's self-running, self-funding, whatever else, meaning that you don't need outside things to do this. And part of it is like if you have like a bank account, for example, and then a DAO, what you call a DAO, votes on what happens to that bank account. It's not actually autonomous because you still trust someone in a bank to like distribute the funds. So typically a DAO would mean when you do the vote, the funds get transferred automatically, like as part of this, without any intervention.
It's like a credit union for homies.
Yeah, but like when you don't have to trust people to like listen to, things, it just works. And then just like a vending machine, right? You put the thing in and it works. And then organization just means you have to be able to come together as one. You can't just like you could have say the Bitcoin model. You could argue it's decentralized. It's harder to argue, but you could argue that it's autonomous, but you can't really argue it's a organization. It doesn't, you can't come together and concretely say, this is what we believe and want to do.
And that's the thing with Bitcoin too, is there's that saying, we are all Satoshi, and it's true to a certain degree, right? And with a decentralized autonomous organization, it is one thing that people coming together, casting their votes on things, they discuss things, they come up with things to be voted on, and then it gets processed. And at the end of the day, somebody has to execute on it, right? Somebody has to do these things. That's what that's how any organization works. They either do things or they don't. So, and it's like it's having its own democracy in the digital space that's secure and offers levels of privacy. It really is. It's its own true democracy, right? There's no representation of you. It's if you got to vote on every aspect of anything that comes up, and you actually have a say, and that say can't be it can't be messed with, right? If you put a vote in for yes, your vote is there forever on the blockchain for yes, and there's millions, hopefully millions of different computers around the world that all agree that hey, this person cast this vote at this time, and on this topic. And so it's there, it's secure, and it's tamper-proof, right? And that's something that I think, I'm not trying to bring government into this because it's not an organization, but there's people that tamper with people's votes in the mail, right? And it's and then when it comes to digital voting, they don't even allow the digital voting for things. And over the Ukraine, for them to vote on things, it's just an app on people's phones that they can vote on any process that's going on. So anything that gets brought up, people get their say and they can cast their vote that way. And why things aren't like that globally, where we can just all have a say, is well, I think we kind of see that now as the United States moves towards war. Technology usually moves faster than the rest of the world.
Yeah, but then at that point, how do you know if you can trust the software that manages those votes?
That's why you need open source tech, where if it's open source, anyone can read the code. That doesn't mean I can make head or tail of it, but it does mean that people who are smart can, and at least you can trust them. Or in the modern age of AI and stuff, you could just drop an entire code base into an LLM and say, what does this do? And are there vulnerabilities, and what happens if whatever?
And that's a good thing too, is you can drop these things into AI. Like we just saw that, Claude just broke OpenSSL and it found so many different vulnerabilities. And this is the basic technology behind, going to a website, HTTPS, right? And it's, for an AI to be able to catch these things as well. And that's a part of our technology as well with verified privacy, is that, the code running, which is WireGuard, can be verified that, hey, this open source software that's running in this little enclave is actually the code that, we say is running, and it's verifiable, right? Everybody has the ability to verify that is the code running inside there. So the world, I feel, is moving into zero trust architecture, zero trust systems. I kind of saw this happening, years ago, and I'm like, I just didn't understand it because, there's only so much you can do with technology, right? We find limitations with things, but now with zero trust, I'm starting to see that there are no limitations with things, right? It does always boil down to, well, hey, how do you know this isn't happening? How do you know that somebody's not going to do a side channel attack on this? And these are going to be questions that are going to be asked from now until the end of time. How do you know for sure that this is, what it says it is? And I think a lot of that comes down to consensus, right? You have to trust the engineers before that, before these verification systems come into play, or have come into play. You have to trust these engineers and their insight and what it is, their expertise on this. And if they see some bullshit, 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to call it out and be like, hey, look, I found a discrepancy here we need to fix this. And if it's not fixed, then you kind of know that the actors behind it are probably religious, right?
Mhm.
And it's how can you trust these things? And it took a Microsoft engineer to figure out a compression, a back door that would have infected every Linux system out there, just because he noticed that it was running slower than it should have been running. So he went into it and investigated it, and found out why. So open source is the only solution that we can have out there. You can't release proprietary software and be like, hey, this is what it is, trust it, right? It's no thanks on that one. I'm not going to trust shit.
What if the government makes one? And
well, then I'm definitely not going to trust it. That's got 3 letters written all over it, right?
right,
And I think we're seeing that too. Like right now, I think with the White House or something, I can't pay attention to all this bullshit all the time. They just released something to where the European Union can access U.S. websites via proxy. So basically, like their own VPN. And because the EU is like blocking access from their internet subscribers over there from accessing certain content and accessing US based services and content, and it's censorship, down to the T. It's censorship, right? But then the United States wants to open up an avenue in which the EU's people can bypass what's going on there and connect with us. But here's the thing: do you trust something like that? Would you be like, hey, this is trustworthy, let me use this? But no.
So I have another question. I don't know if this is related or not, but it's something that does concern me, because now that we see like a sort of like a merging of tech and government, do we have anybody who we can donate to that we also trust that can actually safeguard internet autonomy? There was one woman, I think she was something Fitzgerald, and she was saying you need to stop supporting the systems that are designed to oppress you. So in order to guarantee the future autonomy of the internet, and for apps like this or any network that actually tries to keep your information autonomous, who's preventing laws from just canceling that out to where we get some like blanket law that a non-elected official in like the World Economic Forum would be like, hey, now all of this is illegal, and you have to go through us, sort of like why we all left Discord, like as much as we can push back and vote with our money by, choosing to disengage, is there any guarantee or safeguards in place that say that we'll be able to maintain internet autonomy?
Yeah.
I can let you answer that, Joel.
Yeah. Well,
there's like a lot of different organizations out there. Like it depends. I mean, a lot of them will focus on specific things. Like you'll have Index on Censorship that focuses on censorship and free speech type of stuff. Then you have Electronic Frontier Foundation that they're a little bit more broad. They're fighting for privacy and as well as just internet freedom in general. So there are a lot of organizations out there, and it's hard because you have to look into them and see what they're actually accomplishing and try to make sure that money's going somewhere useful. But, a lot of times what it comes down to, honestly, is people like you see on the screen right here, Ecstatic J, who's been on our show before, is just a single person who wasn't even into politics like 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And between then and now got into politics and has actually been able to successfully get flock safety cameras removed from the city. Because that was the issue that was important to him, so he focused his effort on that one issue and was able to make a difference. And that's the thing is, like, we need everybody to have their thing and figure out what is important to them and put their efforts into that. And the more people that join that fight, the more we're actually going to get done.
Yeah, because I don't want to succumb to like digital nihilism, but if it wasn't for like Nathan, Shane, and Susie, I was just like, hey, you know what? I give up. Because it's hard. It's hard to actually know, aside from, like you said, actually knowing somebody who you trust, to be like, hey, if somebody says this is good, is it just like the lady down the street or my crazy uncle with the tinfoil hat? Like, who do who do we now? So I disengaged, and now I'm kind of like thinking about things like this again.
Well, that's the
Not
thing
the
too,
worst
is you
thing to
just
do.
can't give up. You just can't
Yeah.
give up. And as Jonathan has showed us, like he's not political, right? He's he just saw that, hey, this is bullshit. I got to say and do something about this, and people got behind him, and he was able to make moves on that front, right? This is just he just saw a calling where he was able to step up.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is and that's the question I asked for him, is like, how do I go about doing this in my communities for when this inevitability starts happening around us?
Yeah.
And I want to give up too at times, right? There's times where I'm just like, wow, this is all just too much, right? There's nothing that you can fight and combat against this. And like, what if the government turns on its people? Well, then you're fucked, right? It's in these situations and stuff, like a lot of people ask questions like, well, what do we do if this happens? Well, if that happens, that means other shit's happening, and we're probably fucked regardless, right? It's going to come down to throwing spears at each other and foraging for food, right? And it's how it is. This is it do be like that is the thing.
Yeah. Well, didn't Albert Einstein said, I don't know what we'll fight World War III with, which is an interesting day to say this, but for World War IV, they'll be fighting with sticks and stones.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is looking at how things are, especially with the education levels that are dropping globally. It will probably be sticks and stones, right? People aren't even smart enough to build the spears and stuff anymore. They have to watch YouTube videos. So I'm not trying to.
Doesn't turn into that.
No, I mean, I thought I was really independent until my iPhone 13 mini gave up on me, and I realized that I could barely do anything.
Yeah, and that's, as somebody, I've completely disconnected from technology, and I would say for spiritual reasons, right?
Yeah.
I had to value my own human spirit, but that's the thing; it's boring as hell. Like, when you just let technology go, and everybody else is so dependent on it. They're watching their YouTubes on their smart TVs, and they constantly have a phone in their hand or a tablet, or they're on the computer gaming, or they're in front of their Xboxes and PlayStations gaming. So you can't escape technology. Technology is one thing that connects, society as a whole.
Stay.
Yeah.
It is. It's not going anywhere, right? We're not going to go to horse and buggies, but even horse and buggies, that's the technology there. The wheel is a part of a technology, is a part of an engineered system in which people can travel. But that's the thing, is we can't get rid of technology. We can't escape being around technology unless you want to go live on the moon. And even there, we probably have technology sitting there too as well.
Yeah.
So that if anybody has any more questions, or if they want to bring up any perspectives, you guys feel free to join the show, or leave us a comment in the YouTube chat there.
There's a gentleman raising his hand.
Real quick, I was just curious what Joel thought about the Clarity Act, in which way. Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question, and just the nuances there with that and how it'll affect everything.
Yeah, the big precursor to the question is like, which Clarity Act? Because there's been a lot of things proposed. I know that the House passed one version, and then I know that two different Senate committees had two different versions, and I've read those drafts. But then things have changed since then, and I don't know where the ultimate one stays right now. I'm not in the business of influencing legislation, so I'm not really keeping up to the very latest things until this is actually like passed out of the Senate, for example. But generally speaking, I kind of viewed at least the House version and to a lesser extent the Agricultural Committee in the Senate one version to be better than I could have expected so far. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, it does have the government govern how exchanges and other things like that work. I don't like that. The big part that in a lot of these has come through is a decriminalization of peer-to-peer activities, where basically you could transact peer-to-peer, use non-custodial wallets, all that kind of stuff, all the like root decentralized stuff, and it's explicitly outlined that that's not a crime. Now, it was never made illegal other than that, but I do know people who've gone to prison multiple people for peer-to-peer trading, for just selling crypto for cash. And one friend of mine, Mark Hopkins, who's kind of one of the more high-profile ones out of Texas, he basically tried to run a fully legitimate business. The local authorities, he asked if he needed a Texas money transmitter license to do this. They said no. The feds ended up getting him on that and sending him to prison for not having a money transmitter license on the federal level, and despite being very unclear about that publicly. And the in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people, I guess, the feds, I don't know if it's the current administration would do this, probably not, but again, you never know. They intentionally did not want to make law on this, because when you put something publicly out, it becomes a subject of public discourse, and they can then change that and make it perfectly legal. And so they wanted to exploit a loophole to throw key people in prison in order to cause a chilling effect and kind of like push the whole industry and peer-to-peer activity especially down. And so that being codified as legal now would be massive. Now, I don't know, there was some talk about those protections trying to be stripped out. There's some other proposed legislation, I think, that just does that and puts it back in. I think that's the big part of that. Now, there's some other things depending on which act, which basically decide which crypto assets could be treated as commodities versus securities. And I think the Ag Committee one had a very interesting formula where it's just like how many regarding initial coin distribution, node count, developers, like all this kind of stuff. And based on these committees, they put coins into different baskets of, is this a fully commoditized thing? Is this a commodity, but there are certain sales limits on how much you could sell? Is this a hybrid commodity security where the CFTC and the SEC both govern it? Or is this a full-blown security? And so based on these criteria, some of these coins, like I think about in the top 200 or something, only 12 of them would be category 1, which would be like, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dash, Zcash, like Monero, a few other ones like that, that would be considered completely decentralized, I guess. And then category 2 would have been like Ethereum, where it's considered mostly decentralized, but you could not sell more than a certain, something like 100 million or something like that. I don't remember the exact number. And it might not be relevant if the law is completely different anyway, but you could only sell like the founding teams could only sell this much as a just regular commodity sale per year. Anything in excess of that would have to be registered as a securities offering.
How is that even
something?
Oh,
what was that?
Sorry, I was just wondering, how is that even legal? Is that just with how do they get around? How do they even make that a thing? Is it just because of the taxes involved, or how is it illegal to
pass along?
That's crazy.
Or which when we spot?
Yeah, how is it even legal to penalize or make somebody criminal for exchanging currency? I mean, is it like, well, I don't understand. That's why
I think they just make it up as they go along, but that's just
out of it. Yeah, that sounds bizarre to me.
Unfortunately, a lot of things are illegal in this country. This is a pretty great country. Despite that, there's a lot of really bad things.
Yeah.
Like, for example, to transmit money, you need a money transmitter license. And I don't think you should need a license for that. But that's the reality. You do need it. And a peer-to-peer barter should not be considered that. Like, if you want to say, I'm going to sell a bunch of collectible tokens, then in Craigslist, sure, they might want you to pay taxes on that like a business, but it's not like you're a licensed exotic whatever dealer. Like, no, you're just a garage sailor. Now, if you're a garage sailor of digital things, they would consider that at certain, even if you did it for as low as like $5 or lower, like any amount.
Yeah.
According to what the feds have done, if you sell any cash for crypto, that's considered a money transmitter thing that you need a license for, or you can go to prison for not doing it. And that's a weird interpretation, in my opinion, because it's not, the crypto part isn't money according to the government yet. And why are you a money transmitter for paying cash? Like, am I a money transmitter when I sell like produce from my backyard? because there's cash involved? Like, am I transmitting? Or are you just making a purchase? It doesn't make
Why is
sense
that
to me.
even?
Yeah, that's what my question was more like.
Why aren't they catching bad guys with that?
How is it legal to prosecute? How is it legal to prosecute somebody for selling? I mean, isn't America about being able to trade and transfer money?
It should
simply?
be,
Like,
but
it seems crazy to me.
here's the reality with law and things like that is the government does whatever they kind of, anytime you give, so this goes back to like constitutional law and everything like that. The reason why the US has turned out to be such a great country, again, tons of asterisks in the modern era, I'm sure, but is because you had this concept of constitutionally limited government, where the Constitution, the entire point of it was to tell the government what it can't do.
Exactly.
Basically can do nothing.
I like how you use the word was, and that's
Yeah.
no, yeah.
And things have changed. And
tense.
the thing is, like, when the Bill of Rights was created, there was some, I guess, concern's the right word, but there was some discussion on why do we need this? Like, this is obvious. The government can't do these things. And the idea was, well, we have to explicitly outline this, or maybe they'll try some stuff in the future. And try some stuff they did, despite it being very outlined. Like, you know, Fourth Amendment protections. That's like a big one. First Amendment, like the government coming in and embedding itself into Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. How is that not like a First Amendment violation? Second Amendment, of course, is thankfully has been doing very well the last 20 years, I think, in like upward trajectory in a lot of states. But the Second Amendment, again, trampled over in a lot of ways. We need to have, you know, we need to have like things outside of government's control entirely. But the point is, as long as they're there, they're going to try to get as much power as they can. And if you're a prosecutorial office, you're going to try to cause whatever mayhem you can. And if you're not saying, well, I'm an interpreter, whatever is legal, I'll do. Whatever's not legal, I won't do. It's more like, I want to do a thing. How can I justify it legally and make sure a judge will uphold it? And it's a very crazy thing. And just as a weird tidbit on how crazy this stuff kind of gets, in New Hampshire, there's an interesting court battle kind of going on right now because up until you know, a few months ago, I guess, you needed to have your vehicles inspected every year in order to be, you know, licensed to drive on the road. It was like one of the very few states that had a vehicle inspection law, and it was kind of the only not terrible state to have it. A bill came in that repealed that completely. So now that's not a requirement anymore. However, a federal judge ruled against that, which is crazy because a company that was doing the EPA's portion of the like emissions test type stuff of these inspections sued the state of New Hampshire to keep this in place and there's a lot of like there's a lot of very like strange like nuance to all this, but basically they basically said we do EPA emissions testing, and you are unfairly cutting off our ability to do this without explicit permission from the EPA itself. So you cannot repeal a state level law at the state level. Is kind of the weird ruling, which is absolutely mind boggling. And so as of right now, like the good thing is the state level government in New Hampshire is very, as they like to say, based in terms of the executive council, which is a stand-in for a lot of the government's power, has completely denied and killed all contracts relating to the inspection program, where they completely defunded it. So there are no inspection stickers to even give. So even the federal judge says you need one. It's like, you can't get one because they completely gutted the ability to do it because it was repealed, and they're fighting, you know, in court. But the good thing is like this ruling doesn't really, it has no teeth to it at this point, right? It just, if you have an uninspected vehicle, you're not going to get pulled over. You're not going to get fined. And more importantly, you can't even get it inspected. It's just impossible. There are no inspection stickers, even though the judge says, no, you have to keep doing this because of some nonsense. So there's always going to be the government trying to take more power, put more restrictions on you, kind of just beat you up at every step of the way. And I do believe people who have a taste for it should be involved in their local governments wherever they can to try to push back against the stuff, donate to nonprofits, whatever. But that's kind of like running defense. I think we need to go on the offense. The offense is to build systems that don't rely on this whole circus, because they've got embedded into this circus so much.
Yeah,
that
some states do it by county.
I think that's a great point. Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is with government. What is government? It's just a consensus. It's a construct in which there's a consensus on what the rules are. And if there's nobody to enforce the rules, what good are having the fucking rules in the first place? And also, you know, and I just want to chime in with this, because this is what irks me and annoys the shit out of me, is that when, you know, like we just went to war with Iran, right? And you need congressional approval before that, right? There's democracy. You need these things, but then you just go ahead and do these things anyways, right? And I kind of see that with that.
Well, no, they have like a limit. They're allowed to bomb the hell out of whoever they want for like 90 days or something like that before they need the congressional approval. Yeah, it is technically legal. There's some weird loophole. That's why like Obama dropped like, you know, like 2,000 something drone strikes without congressional approval, because they're allowed to. You can make it some, I forget what it's called, but they're allowed to do a certain military action for a certain period of time without congressional approval. And then for a sustained war, that's when they need congressional approval. Because the idea is Congress moves slower than molasses, you know what I mean? Like, look at how long it's taken for the Epstein files to still not get released. You know what I mean?
They need to go on vacation first.
Yeah, if somebody's attacking us and we need their approval, we'd be like, sorry, guys, hang on. It's going to take us 6 months of bureaucracy before we can agree to fight back.
Let's discuss this first.
So what's the legality? Of is anyone familiar with like your domicile states of just like everybody that's cool moving to a PO box in Nebraska and then setting up a town that's like where they can vote on policies so that eventually they'll have enough citizens to, even though nobody lives there, but they're registered as living there, to send a representative into Congress.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then these are big questions. These are the types of things that we've had over the last, I would say, 15 years, you know, and it comes down to the realm of like, how do we govern ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And really what it
representation, actually, even you know, like, who decided we could go to war with Iran?
Right, and that's the thing too. Is like we're powerless, aren't we? Like I think that, and then especially with DAOs, these things are here to empower the people, right? And I don't feel like I have a say with things going on.
Yeah, but I mean, there has to be a way that everybody in the digital space can register into one geographic location and set up a actual, you know, nation, like a community where their votes get represented.
Let me tell you about the Free State Project then, because that's kind of, you know, before crypto, I moved to New Hampshire for something called the Free State Project. And basically the idea of that is that everyone who believes in freedom, who wants to, moves to one small population state with an already kind of pro-liberty culture, and then just does whatever they can in their maximum practical effort to achieve liberty in our lifetime, where the maximum role of government, if any, is preservation of property and liberty. And so basically a bunch of us, and I don't know exactly the numbers today, but it was maybe somewhere in the 5,000 to 10,000 range so far have moved, and just a lot of completely independently. And as a result, there's a lot of things that have happened, like such as obviously a very tight-knit, very hardcore libertarian community, homeschooling co-ops, things like that. But the sort of main event would be, I would say, crypto and legislature. So the crypto movement kind of got started in New Hampshire. The New Hampshire radio show Free Stater run, by the way, Free Talk Live, is where the Satoshi's heir came on. Gavin Andreessen came on one day to kind of talk about Bitcoin, and that's where Roger Ver, the famous Bitcoin Jesus entrepreneur, first heard about Bitcoin, was listening to the show. The Bitcoin ATM was invented in Manchester, New Hampshire, for example. A lot of the first everything kind of happened. In fact, in 2014, I went up to the Porcupine Freedom Festival and for like 7-8 days, and only brought Bitcoin with me, and it brought no dollars, and I just could spend it on everything there. So it was kind of like a very it's kind of a very early type of a thing on all this.
Is that
And
still happening?
on the other, yes, it's still happening. I would say the crypto movement has sort of like a lot of the early crypto people have just sort of made a ton of money and retired. And I'm sort of trying to start things back up here to get more stuff going on. But there's a lot of crypto activity despite like a small and rural state. But as far as the political thing, a unique facet of New Hampshire's government is, first of all, the governor is the weakest governor in the entire U.S. And it's this power split with something called an executive council, which does things like approve contracts. And also the House is 400 members strong. So one state representative, and they each of them earn $100 a year, and that's all they earn.
Is it a domicile state?
What do you mean exactly by that?
Like where I could get a PO box over there and register as a resident, even though I travel the country and do remote work. I know Texas does it and Colorado, and a couple of states do it where you can register your cars there. You can set up your LLC there. You can get a PO box there.
Like truckers do that, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not sure. My gut feeling on that is no, but I'd have to check in on that. But I guess the point with the legislature is because there's 400 representatives of about 1.5 million people.
Yeah,
it's relatively easy to get a person in there as far as it's like the people's house. So at the moment, so you can actually get anarcho-capitalists, the most hardcore libertarians elected as people in government under the Republican Party. It's really hard to get with a third party, but it doesn't matter if you can just vote as a complete, liberty person anyway. And so right now there's a Republican governor who I'm not the biggest fan of, but she will veto any tax increase whatsoever. So that's already made that very clear. So that's at least good. The Senate is Republican controlled with a couple of free staters as Senate members. The House is Republican controlled, and the House Majority Leader himself is a free stater, and the Freedom Caucus that basically runs everything has a very high free stater representation. And the Executive Council is also Republican at the moment, and a couple members of that, I'm not sure if you consider them free staters, but they're hardcore liberty people. And so basically we have, it's not a very strong hold, but you basically have a liberty control over New Hampshire right now, which is why since I've been here in the last 12, 13 years, you've had, for example, constitutional carry get passed. You've had business taxes. There's two different ones get lowered like at least 3 separate times, I believe. You've had a room and meals tax go down. You've had the interest and dividends tax get completely repealed. You've had, marijuana decriminalization. You've had, I would have to get a big list out of all the things, but there's been a constant march towards things being better and freer. And New Hampshire ranks, according to the Cato Institute's Freedom in the 50 States Index, New Hampshire's been #1 for about the last decade. And we're doing great things here. The work's not done, but the point is the Move Here movement proved that it can work. You can make things better. And I kind of feel like in being a resident over here, the local stuff gets better year after year. The federal stuff gets scarier year after year. And I think that at some point we're going to have a little bit of a schism, and you're going to have some more nullification legislature, some more nullification acts, things like that. There's already a bill that was passed by the New Hampshire legislature is written into law that nullifies any federal gun laws that want to infringe upon local rights. So
Excellent.
And so who knows what the enforcement of these things are, but these things are happening. And New Hampshire's not the only place things are going well, but it proved that you can, in a super solid blue, like northwest or northeastern quadrant of the country, have like the most radically free place on the planet, basically, and set an example that now other states can be like, oh, well, they did it over there. We can make things better here.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I'm not invested in any side of the political spectrum, but I believe any form of visibility of any movements leaning towards freedom shows both sides that there is a public interest, and then they have to pay attention to it.
And
No
that's the
special
power of
interest.
community.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that's what we value the most too, is that
Yeah.
that is the power of community. You know, that, you know, people can move to that state like that and make a change. It just shows that there is proof that, you know, you can make a difference, and you do make a difference. And I think Jonathan showed us that as well, in Bend,
Yeah.
Oregon. And it's, you know, if you have a movement, it's obvious that you have a community behind you, right? And I think I really do think that these, as people awaken in this world and see how things truly are, well, I think showing them and allowing them to see that, you know, you can make a difference and your voice does matter, and you can get people behind things, right? You can be free. And that's the thing too, is when people talk about freedom, you know, I just tell them, like, oh, you know, what is this about freedom? Just be free, right? And that's the thing, is you can just be free. You can just let go of all the rules that you think is out there and be like, hey, well, I think this way, and other people think this way as well. Let me get out there and let's make the world better, right? And if you want to make the world better,
I mean,
that's our community.
That's why I say freedom via independence, is because if you're not independent, you can't be free. And if you constantly rely on government assistance or a community to validate you or sustain you, then they have you by the balls already. So knowing that there's places like New Hampshire, I've never even heard about that prior to today. You know, and now I'm going to look into it, and it's like,
visit.
Maybe I should go visit there, and, like, you know, because I'm a contractor, I can move pretty much anywhere I want in the States, but I would like to have a home base. Mine right now is Texas, which actually aligns with my values. Because then at least, you know, if I have to pay taxes and I want them to go in a direction where I'm being represented.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, no sales tax, no state income tax. That's pretty good. No seatbelt law, no motorcycle helmet law. There's a lot of good stuff to look for.
And you're a 2A state now too.
Yep.
On the East Coast. Amazing.
Also, Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire, all three are constitutional carry.
I love Vermont.
You can just kind of go through it. And unfortunately, Vermont and Maine are getting worse. But the point is, at least from guns, you can just go all across the 3 states and not have to worry about it.
I thought it was pretty communist out there, in all honesty. I never even knew that.
Yeah.
And that's the big
fear.
We
have to be real careful from California.
That's Massachusetts.
You have a right. You have a right to travel freely until you drive across state lines and they pull you over, and then your constitutional carry means you know 8 more cars pull up and you have guns in your face. So it you know, what is freedom is a big question and stuff that I often ask, especially when it comes to traveling. Like I follow the speed limits, like you know, I follow all the rules. Just because, you know, I just want to be good. But that's the thing is, you know, we need things like constitutional carry. We need these freedoms afforded to us. There's a lot of crazy shit out there. And you mentioned these states getting worse. And that's the thing, too, is like some states are getting worse and some states are getting better. But, you know, the more I look at the news, the more I see that why are we decreasing freedom and not increasing it, right? When you have freedom, like you know, it's subjective, I think, where, you know, people they take that and they have the freedom to be assholes, right? And that's the thing is, I think that's a lot of where our freedoms are being restricted. Is because there's a bunch of assholes. But at the same time, too, you know, if you should have the freedoms to be a good person as well. And that's the thing is, how can you be a freedom to be a good person and protect yourselves against the wicked and the stupid shit that's out there? Excuse my language. You know, not just with constitutional carry, but when it comes to handling your money, handling your property.
Just with all commerce. Yeah, that's what I was asking. Is like, how is it legal to penalize people for exchanging currency? And another question, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, was
no problem.
When it comes to commerce, because what do you recommend as an alternate? Because now I do contracting. A lot of people don't like cash anymore, which sounds completely bizarre to me. Is there an alternative to Cash App and Venmo that you could recommend?
Yeah, listen, that's going to be part of the rabbit hole of living on crypto, and thankfully things are getting a lot easier.
I've never done
it. Yeah, way more than we can kind of cover over the call. So hit me up privately. I don't know what socials you use or whatever, but get in contact. I'll be more than happy to help you out. But that is a fantastic point. And one thing I've noticed is about like some places getting better and some getting worse. We are entering an age of global regulatory arbitrage where basically you're much, much less pinned down to your birth jurisdiction or wherever you live. You can kind of pick and choose which jurisdictions suit you. Inside the US, of course, this is once you're in the US, you can move across states. It's pretty easy. And I think that New Hampshire, again, was one of the first to do the whole like move here for political reasons kind of thing. But Florida has become a lot better as well. Texas was really bad on some things and is now getting a lot better with those things. Like we're starting to have that competition between states on this. Of course, you had Ireland that had a lot of very low business taxes, Portugal with crypto taxes. Dubai is kind of like the super like poster child for just move here and there's no taxes, habibi. So we're having this happen and it's enabled by free and open commerce. And so
crypto's the way.
Yes, and I think that remote work, especially after the uncertain times of about 6 years ago, kind of kicked everyone out of the office temporarily and kind of pushed this forward. Remote work was a big catalyst for this. Obviously, internet and all that stuff, but having boundaryless money and uncensorable online businesses running on decentralized rails you can't take down kind of gives you that freedom to just say, you know what, I'm going to just go. Another country wants to welcome me in, I'm going to go there. Or a state has a pressure to, let's make it really attractive because we want people's business. We're actually courting tax dollars, not extracting them purely. And this is a big shift. It's not, nothing is perfect, sunshines and rainbows, right? But it's getting to the point where we're starting to be able to not be trapped anymore. And I think that's really evolving the world.
Well, it has evolved, especially since the business approach to it. A lot of companies, they pay their contractors overseas in USDT, right? These coins that are tethered to a certain currency, and it makes it simple that they can just receive this instantly without having to do anything with the banks, and then they can just convert it to cash in their country that way. So we're starting to see all this stuff now. You don't see companies just paying their employees in crypto. I think they should do that.
Yeah.
If they're offering stock options, why is this any different? So
guess what? As of in like a week or two, companies will be able to pay all their employees in crypto, including Dash, pretty easily.
What is Dash?
Dash is a cryptocurrency that I primarily use and also sort of work towards advancing the adoption of, but it's portmanteau of digital cash. But yeah, the point is pretty soon, everyone in most of the world, I would say, will be able to just sign up and receive their salary entirely in uncensorable money if they want to, without changing their jobs. Like I had to actually get rid of my whole previous career and everything and start whatever would pay me crypto. We won't have to do that soon, like now. Basically.
And that's I've been paying attention to that very closely too, because it makes it, when you try to pay somebody that's in the United Kingdom and stuff, they have like what's called the IBAN. It could take like weeks for them to get their money, right? And that's just for a basic, simple wire transfer. And even Donald Trump said this, all of the SWIFT network and everything, the ACH network, it's all old and decrepit. It doesn't make sense to keep using this shit. When if I want to send you some money, like I should be able to click on your name, type in the amount, and send you the money. And to answer your question there, Sims, about how can we're moving into a cashless society. Like things like Cash App and Venmo, these types of things, they can convert their cash directly into crypto, and you can just, it's a QR code. You just show them the QR code on your phone, and it sends you that coin. And then whenever you need money, so they send you $5,000 for a contract job, and they send it to you in crypto, where you're like, okay, well, I need money for expenses. You just cash it out to cash right then. It's instant, right? You can send the coin to yourself and just cash it out.
Exactly, but that's when you start doing things like that, then it's almost like you're using your Cash App or your Venmo as a wallet, and not that I'm like, I don't want to be giving Peter Thiel any more control, because when it comes to crypto, I think that I could be on the tinfoil hat side of things, but eventually I feel that the EF is just going to come over and be like, hey, all of this stuff is too crazy. We're going to make a one world cryptocurrency that will replace all tangible assets. And that's kind of like, I mean, that's my main reluctance with crypto. I got $500 of Bitcoin into 2010, and I lost, the 24, they gave me like a brick of words and I lost it. And ever since then, I was like, yeah, forget all that.
As I was saying, we need to.
A lot of people did that. There's
backup
like,
things.
what, a $4 billion pizza out there somebody paid for? Something along those lines is like, you know, when we first adopted Bitcoin, it was supposed to replace cash. Right now, it's the gold behind cash, or the gold behind crypto, in which supports the ecosystem there. So it's a lot to learn and be a part of. But we have a question here from Anonymous Ninja.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Jump in here quick.
Or go ahead.
Before Joel has to leave here.
Getting
my local coffee shop to accept crypto as a payment is one thing, right? It's pretty easy to do. They're going to accept my payment. But how do we get the employees to keep that crypto as payment for them, right? So how do we move this around so it's a circular economy where local merchants actually hold and spend the crypto and not just accept it and then trade it right out?
Great question.
Yeah, well, I think the first step is just being able to use it as money, meaning that it's not just a fun play thing. You can actually spend it on everything. And then it becomes real to people. Then you can say, hey, can I just tip you individually rather than the tip jar? Or sometimes you could get the tip jar kind of, it's kind of on top. And especially if you have like cash or whatever, give a cash tip and then a crypto tip, just to get them on board with that. And as long as they know what they can do, how they can spend it easily, how they can cash it out. And for example, there's one app called BitRefill that will let you buy gift cards for almost anything in a wide variety of cryptocurrencies. And so, for example, Amazon. So who doesn't buy stuff off Amazon? So you'd be much more willing to take some cryptocurrency if you could send it, buy stuff off Amazon with it. And so that's kind of how that starts. I think that I've given like talks on this before about like those stages of adoption, about how first you start out, you just have banks, and then you have crypto, and then you sell for money in your bank and then pay for stuff. And then, okay, well, next thing, you take your crypto, don't put it in your bank, you load a Visa card with it that then you pay for things. And then the next step is, okay, you buy a gift card with it that is, it's kind of like store credit for the store, then you turn it in right away. Then you have that. Okay, then you pay to a business with crypto that automatically converts to fiat on their bank account. Then the next step, finally, after that, is you just send them crypto and they keep crypto. And it's obviously not universal, not all at once. It goes in waves. But the more you can start moving, it's like a pegboard, right? You just like move them down a step. The more parts of your life and your ecosystem you can shift to the right, so to speak, shift to the next bit, the better everything gets. And you might get your small business, like my local French bakery, takes crypto and holds it, and they have forever. And so if I do that, then I can get someone else to say, oh, look, you can spend it here, and they can spend it here. And it just starts growing and moving in that direction. And that's sort of like my final word on all that. And it's been a huge pleasure being on here, by the way. And if anyone wants to reach out with me to any other questions and anything, just drop my contact in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to spend some time. Ping me on X. That's the biggest way. But other than that, there's the fine folks here can help you get in touch with me.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Joel.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And when we think about a better world, it starts with having a voice and being able to vote on secure systems, like vote on how things should be, right? And that's the best way. And that's really what a decentralized autonomous organization does offer to all of us, in this world. And it's just an amazing thing to see. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen out there, we are going to move into a quick intermission, and then we will bring back some more questions and answers, and then we'll just have a free-for-all chat and close things out. It's wonderful that you showed up here, Sims. Just that's the most beautiful thing about this, is having a voice, right?
Sorry for I'm not a techie like you guys. If my questions were lame,
and that's the point.
You've been fine.
That's why it's so special. there's a lot of people that aren't techie out there, right? And that's perfectly okay. You can live in this world freely and be as you are, and as you are is a good thing, right? Whether you know technology or not. And that's why I want to integrate the the higher minded technical folks with the common folks of this world that live their everyday lives, and just we're all here in the pursuit of happiness, right?
Yeah.
But there's other people here in the pursuit of knowledge, and I think there's there's a lot of experience and wisdom and knowledge to be shared between everybody. That's the thing, is like, I know a lot about computers, but I can't do what Susie does with growing things. I can't do what you do with building things. I can't do what Mr. Miller here does with running the numbers and making things happen, and having a super analytical mind, and what I thought is my understanding of people and stuff. He offers me so much insight as well. And then I can't do what Nathan here does with the creativity side of things. My brain just doesn't work like that.
So there's this little saying that there's a fish, the birds don't talk badly about the fish for not being able to fly, kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's
so then is Dash like a wallet, a crypto wallet that we all generally agree is a safe one?
They have a lot of solutions, but they're one of the pioneers in how the decentralized autonomous organizations operate, right? And so it's codified in law now, right? You have like Wyoming, that's pro DAO, that where a lot of these companies and organizations register. It's like saying, hey, if you want to start a GameStop and sell video games, but you don't want a board of directors, you want to give all that power to the people, in which they can vote on how you want to sell video games, or you want to run your stores. What they say is what you do as an organization. And so they're one of the first pioneers in this space. And now that this crypto legislation is changing, like here in about in less than 21 days, we can start organizations and start paying them directly in crypto. And then there's legislation now where the U.S. government has said that stable coins, which is if I send you $50, you have $50, no matter if Bitcoin goes up, if it goes down, you have $50. It's tied to the U.S. dollar. So now these are cash equivalents, right, that you can pay people in, and we're going to see businesses and all these organizations that are out there. And there's a lot of them, trust me, in the underground space and in the tech space with these. These are the backbone of all the infrastructure of everything moving in this world right now, right? We see the normal stuff, like where we go to the store and pay for something right there, and it comes out of my bank account or whatever card it's on, and that's just it, right? Well, that's not just it. And that's the thing, is it's been a big movement, I would say, over like the last 15 years to get these things. As Joel said, now there's Bitcoin ATMs out there. Like in rural Oklahoma, there was gas stations where you could sell and get Bitcoin from at a casino or at a corner store. So it's one way to look at this is think of like stocks and how the stocks work in companies, right? And if you look at Bitcoin like a stock, the line goes down, it goes back up. When the line goes up, then you sell, and then you purchase more when the line goes back down. It's how you make money in this world, is investments.
I've seen it. I've seen them around here, just going around. They have Bitcoin ATMs everywhere.
And it's cool to see, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this as well out there. I mean, like I said, there's been people like even you mentioned you had $500 in Bitcoin. Well, there's people out there that put thousands and thousands into it back in 2011, and they're riding around and they're probably driving their Bugatti, on their yacht, and then when they want to go visit somewhere, they just hop in a helicopter. So and then there's those people. Now. Yeah, and the thing is, it's a better way of doing things, and I think we can all come to an agreement that there could always be a better way to doing things, and there's a more simpler way to doing things. And we can all think about these simpler and better things as we move into an intermission, and we'll reconvene here in about a couple minutes. I'll see you guys in a few.
T-minus 3 minutes.
that just won't work for me. So I encrypt the connection and cover my tracks. We get to the truth and we stick to the facts. We build a safe place where the speech is always free. Where cypherpunks go to just hide and speak. Hide and speak. We stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak. Digital freedom, yeah, that is our choice. Hide and speak. Privacy doesn't mean not having a voice. Hide and speak. What you wanna share is only
T-minus 1 minute.
Look, the world is exposed, yeah, the walls are thin. Everybody posting every place that they've been. Trading privacy for likes, that's a heavy cost. In the ocean of data, the person gets lost. So we flip the switch, yeah, we go underground. Moving through the silence without making a sound. Not hiding because you are doing something wrong. Just defending your rights before they are gone. The room is secure, so let the session start. Speak from the brain or speak from the heart. Tell us your story, we unlock the doors. We invite the guests, and yeah, the
30
floor is
seconds.
yours. You can keep the mask on, keep it low key. Privacy is priceless, but opinions are free. We amplify the voices that they try to call weak. Welcome to the stream, time to hide and speak. Hide and speak, we stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak, digital freedom, yeah, it's our choice.
10, 9,
Hide and speak, privacy doesn't mean not having a voice.
6, 5, 4,
What you
3,
wanna share is
2,
only your choice.
1.
Hide and speak.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. We're here talking about decentralized autonomous organizations, crypto, which is short for cryptography, but as most people see it, they see it as secure transactions. And we're the crew behind vp.net, where we have a zero trust architecture behind our communication system. So it's a VPN in which you can have the first layer between you and the rest of the world. So no matter what you want to do and what you want to get into and stuff, we absolutely suggest privacy. And that's the most beautiful thing about this stuff, is that you can have privacy and anonymity. And as we can see with the legislation going on, that we can also have legality as well, right? So there is a balance between everything. I think we just have to find that together. And I think that with the decentralized autonomous organization, that's what we're all truly doing anyways. It's just finding that balance between what people want and what people get, right? And that's the thing, is like, instead of having one person dictate that's how things are going to be, or a couple people dictate how things are going to be, especially with things that people are really passionate about, or things that people are already a part of. And it's cool to see people come together in that fashion, in which they can vote on things and actually be heard, have a say. And then with Dash, I think it's really cool that, you can integrate your own, have your own identity into it. Just like we have GitHub account names, just like we have Twitter X handles, just like we have YouTube handles. You can actually attach that to a secure, I want to say, identifier, which is, your wallets, the way you authenticate with websites. And a lot of times, when we log into websites, you get a text message or something to verify you are who you say you are. And that's the thing, is these systems are, they're different, but they're no different in those regards that, if you want to add somebody to your contact list, why does it have to go to a phone number? Why can't it go to something else? And that something else is the technology behind what offers us these freedoms and unbinds us from the limitations in which, not just the United States, but like other countries and stuff are dealing with as well. Like in Iran, they shut the internet off. And, there's places where, if they do a job for somebody in the United States and they want to get paid, they can't even get paid because there's too much, evil villainy going on to where that limits how that person can get paid. And that's the thing too, is we care about our freedoms here in the United States, and people all over the world care about their freedoms. But everybody comes from a different place, and I think that's what's most unique and special about us here at VP and the community here, is we all come from unique different places and have and offer our own different perspectives. So welcome back, everybody. Susie, Sims, Chris, and Nathan. If you guys have anything to bring up, like, I think all this stuff is really cool. Like I looked into these technologies and have experience with them over the last 10 years. But to see now in 2026, back in 2018, it was like, oh God, this guy he's banned. And then you look to the right and then instantly somebody else gets caught up in a scandal So these things were scary at the beginning, right? As things were moving into everything, or moving into how society functions, it was scary, and it still can be scary. But I've seen people get rich off of things like making your own Chia pet kitty. So this is the world we live in, right? This is just how it is. It do be like that. So you can go earn $1 paper, or you can earn $1 coin, and it's no different because we live in a digital society anyways. And when we talk about things like privacy, we feel like there is no privacy. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe the man does have us, right? Maybe as we say, like when it comes to information security and hackers, how do you stop a nation state from coming after your ass? You can't, and that's the thing. But there are solutions out there in which you can protect, your property and yourselves. And that's honestly, I feel like that's the zero trust. And that's, who can you trust in this world? What can you trust? And when you could take that out of the equation and verify that things are the way they say they are, and there's no funny business going on, I think that's perfect. That's just me. I'm not sure what, everybody else out there thinks, but I feel like there should be a layer between us and the rest of the world. And especially when it comes to privacy, I'm just going to say this, and I'm going to keep saying this as well. I feel like the layer between us and the privacy violations should be a hamster ball. Like, we should absolutely have hamster balls. And I am looking forward to a hamster ball future in which we can navigate the world, with tinted windows, basically. And I feel like that's a good solution, I think. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about this decentralized autonomous organization stuff?
Yeah, well, one thing, I was trying to bring up at the end there with Joel is, how do we actually bring the working class into the world of cryptocurrency and to get out of fiat currency? And
I think I can answer that. And really, like we say, the first step is awareness, right? But actually, people just, like companies and organizations, they just need to do it, right? And when they just do it, it kind of forces everybody to come along with it. You have to, if you want to get paid, you have to be a part of the thing that's going to pay you, right? And that's just really how it is. That's the only movement that's going to happen. So as organizations move into this, it would be cool if like they offered you like, hey, this is how we're going to pay you, and this is how you can turn it into money instantly whenever you want. This is the more secure method for doing things, and it's just how things are done now. It's how we're going to do it, right? And they're either about it or they're not. They're going to be like, hey, I don't like that. I want to go to Burger King, get paid, $5 an hour to work instead of, making, $100 an hour doing this, because that sounds more legit to me. That sounds like the American way. Well, that's not the American way, right? The American way is freedom, right? And I think a lot of people forget that it is about freedom.
Yeah, and I think that's important that, like people like us promote that and say, and if people that have small businesses accept these cryptocurrencies as payment and not just, dollars and cents.
And that's the cool thing about it too. But especially when it comes to the privacy and all the legislation and all this global push for our fucking identification, like I have to submit 50 different things just to prove who I am. When if I'm going to get a loan, they want to know like what's your blood type, that type of stuff, and it's one, insulting, and two, it's just restrictive on things, right? Because it's only.
I'm trying to buy an energy drink here. You don't need my date of birth.
Exactly.
Yeah, I actually went to Walmart the other day well, not the other day, but we had to Walmart and we paid cash one time, and it showed up in my Walmart account. They're actually tracking even the littlest thing that you buy.
That's
I think
crazy.
it was like something for the garden.
With facial identification or something?
Either that or I may have put a phone number in or something, but they kept the item. And they're like, how did you like this item? They sent me an email. And I'm like, how'd you know I bought that?
Yeah, that was probably just to taunt you.
Well, it's not even that. It's more of the fact that like I never asked you to do that. And I don't want to tell you how my bread was.
Right. And that's the thing too. It's like my answer to that is fuck off. Right. And that's kind of what
why'd I get an
email a lot of us feel in the privacy community, and with where we seek anonymity is the answer to the question is simply just fuck off. And we have to be like that, right? We have to stand our grounds, because why do they want our privacy and information so they can sell us more shit, right? That's the American way too, right? It's money. Sell us more things, consume more things, obey.
Feedback is one thing, but constantly pestering people is another.
Right, and that's a room full of people somewhere. Like, how can we get more money? Like, so that I don't lose my job, I need to figure out how to get more money. And then that's why they send you those emails and those constant pop-ups, those constant questionnaires. And then at the end of that too, they go, oh, well, we have all this valuable information that people have submitted to us freely, without them being compensated in any, fashion. And then they go and sell that data to the next guy who wants to sprinkle it all up, put it in a blender, and then serve it to us. But at the end of the day, you can sprinkle, you can put sprinkles on shit and call it a cupcake, but it's not a cupcake, right? And as Joel mentioned, it's not all sunshine and rainbows with these things. And that's the thing is, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but there is sunshine and there are rainbows, and I think we can all agree on that, right? Well, what do you think, Chris? I think we need more freedom in this world. I think these things offer us more freedom. I think they are our only hope for a better future, is the things that open up freedom rather than restrict it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that completely. Definitely. We actually have a question of the week if you guys want to run that now.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and ask it?
Let's go.
All righty.
If you could press a button to make everyone on the internet permanently anonymous, would you do it? Now, I know that sounds simple, but what that means is that there's never any way to ever verify who you're talking to on the internet. So, like, if you get a message from somebody and claiming it's your girlfriend, you don't know that that's actually a girlfriend, and there's no way to ever know that. So, I mean, like, 100% complete anonymity for everyone always, or, the direction that we're heading in currently, which is no anonymity for anyone.
I'll go ahead and start by saying, yes, I would press that button, just because I want to see what happens, for one. And two, I actually believe in anonymity, right? If I'm not sure if somebody's saying it, or talking to me is who I think it is, and how do you even verify that now? How do you know somebody doesn't walk up to somebody's computer and just start as them?
I mean, with the
that happens
deepfakes,
and especially with the deepfakes, right? How do you know what's true, what's real, and what's not? I say just just stop all that thought process, get it off the table, put a new tablecloth down, and let's re-envision things, right? But that's the thing is, if I don't know something for sure, then I'll speak to that person in person, right? I'll straight up just value their anonymity and why it's needed, right? And that's the thing too, is somebody saying, hey, I like your shirt. Doesn't need their name or identity attached to it because it was a nice thing, right? Why does something have to be attached to nice things? And I think people are, I believe in good in this world. People are good. I mean, there's a lot of bad shit, excuse my language, but I think we need to value the good. And then this Peter Thiel stuff, it Sims, it's not a conspiracy stuff. This guy is constantly talking about the fucking Antichrist, right? And he wants everybody's fucking identity. He wants everybody. And then that first Discord hack that happened was a Peter Thiel backed and funded company that ended up losing all that data and information. So how can we trust these people that are supposed to be about, like, oh, we're the biggest military contractor and saving freedom in the American people because it's patriotism. Then you go and lose everybody's IDs. Fuck off. Like,
he might be the Antichrist.
He probably is the Antichrist.
Projecting.
No, because the Bible says that people would like the Antichrist. He definitely does not satisfy that obligation.
He's like the beta.
He's just a douche.
I would love to get Peter Thiel on here and just like everybody that we know, like the conspiracy theorists, the realists, the truth speakers.
I invited Palantir.
He wouldn't.
And here's the thing: is like, who voted for like this Palantir bullshit to be the person of interest? I'm not sure if you guys ever saw that show, but it was like literally an AI that tracked everybody, and like I think they were solving crime. I don't know. I didn't watch this shit, but it was that's what we're moving into. Palantir is behind, like they're partnered with Block, they're partnered with Ring,
They're programming.
I'd love for them to come on here.
They're partnered with the social media companies. Persona is behind Reddit. So when you verify your identification, like verify that you're over 18 or 18 or over on Reddit, it goes through, these little companies that, behind the veil there is, it's Peter Thiel and his, probably
Is that the Antichrist?
Probably dancing around in some weird Illuminati outfit and talking about the Antichrist and shit. So it's crazy, and that's the thing is it's all crazy. We can sit here day in and day out and talk about how crazy this shit is, but at the end of the day, it do be like that, and it's kind of just fucking comical at this point watching, right? I like that. That's amazing. It's I look at the news daily with this, and I'm constantly fidgeting with tech and with the solutions at hand, just to see how these things can be integrated into platforms and new ways of doing things. That's just what I do, right? So I every once in a while when I'm done, with that, I look to the side and I see, hey, what's going on? Oh, more of this bullshit, and then. Then we go discuss it and talk about things, and then we predict the next 2 weeks, and then everything that we all predict here ends up happening because it's just so cliche and comical that they want this information on everybody, and they want to restrict these things. And when we talk about things like a decentralized autonomous organization, fucking Visa and MasterCard, like these companies and stuff, they didn't want the money being used for people buying porn. Like, you don't get to dictate what people buy. Like I think the porn addiction is bad. I think any kind of addiction is bad, but at the same time too, you can't push this onto the world and restrict what it is that they can and can't do, and sit there and tell us that you believe in freedom, right? And that was a big thing. Is who got say in that, right? Some board of dickheads somewhere that agreed that this is the right move to make, and it affects billions of people. So that's the thing is with a decentralized autonomous organization, at least if they made these votes and these calls for everybody, we know who did it, why they did it, and when they did it. Even if it was secure, we know that it's a board full of dickheads that made this decision for everybody, and then we can go make other things and be like, yeah, we're not about that. We're about this over here. And I think we're seeing that right now. We have a bunch of dickheads out there.
Oh yeah, no shortage of them.
Yeah, no shortage. Oh, cool. We got the comments pulled up here.
Yeah. I figure you guys can just join the show directly. If you don't want to join the panel, you can just comment right on the screen there, so we'll see it.
Yeah.
CMS
was talking about. Well, go ahead. Sorry.
We had a question we're gonna ask Joel, but we didn't have time, and I think it's something you guys probably have some interesting perspectives on too, though. It's like, so there's this big push in a lot of countries heading towards CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, or like specifically, like state-sponsored stable coins and tokens. Do you think that that's going to push people more towards crypto and decentralized options, or do you think it's going to actually, the goal obviously for them is to end that and to end anonymous transactions and everything like that. But at the same time, the more they try to do that, do you think that's going to cause people to push back enough that it might actually become a big enough thing that they can't push through the CBDCs?
I think that when people start realizing that they can make money off of these things, or that it's a new way of doing things, it has to be a solution, right, for people to adopt it. And it comes down to Nathan's question: how do we get people to adopt this? Well, when people see that the line goes up, and then you can cash out when the line goes up, and then now you've made more money, I think more people will be inclined to, at least investigate like how to make money on these things. And that's the thing too, is like, instead of having $1 US, any city out there can make their own city coin, right? And then, but that's the thing is, what good is that city coin if nobody in the coin, like in the county or the city, accepts these things in the businesses, right? And you're not gonna get a fine, and then be told that you have to pay in some certain crypto. So if you get pulled over or something, get a red light ticket, they're not gonna be like, you owe us 13 social credits. And we're not going to see any of that stuff, but I think these things are on the discussion panels for these cities and and counties. Like if I was a mayor of a city, fuck yeah, I'd make my own coin. Like I would definitely make my own token. Just because you can raise a lot of money for your city. You know, you can fix those potholes without having to rip everybody off. You know, all the people that want to make money, invest in it.
Especially if you're a large city like New York, right? Like, you know, what's the drawback to that? You know, seems
there
like a
isn't
win-win.
any. There
Exactly.
isn't any. We've not seen any issues or drawback from it.
I live in Tennessee, so like for the central bank digital currencies, they actually made that like illegal here. And in Tennessee, you cannot consider any central bank digital currency, either federally or foreign, as money. It's legally not allowed to be defined or used as money here. So technically, like it's not something you're allowed to like trade for goods and value and services. So like if either our federal government or some other government tries to impose a central bank digital currency, you're not legally allowed to use that in Tennessee, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's only one method. The loophole is you convert it to cash, and then you can go pay for shit with that. And so who cares what the so you can't pay in cryptocurrency. So what? You can
Well, no, not crypto. I'm saying central bank digital currencies. I'm saying government forced ones. Crypto, they're opening it up to leave it so you can use crypto and you can use any form of currency you want, other than one that's being like forced onto you in some weird digital surveillance system.
Yeah, gotcha. But that's the thing too, is it's all a digital surveillance system. Is anybody? I'm sure that there's some corporate executives out there that can just log into people's bank accounts and take their 50,000 down to $50, and then there's not shit anybody can do about it because they can just delete the records, right? And that's the thing is they probably have done that, right? It's if there's the ability to have that level of corruption, I'm sure people toe the lines with it. That's to some degree.
See, it's weird because like our country's such a shit show because we have 50 different states that all have their own ideas, which I love, by the way. Don't get me wrong. That's what I love about America. But because of that, it's almost too difficult for them to try to do something like a CBDC because like you can't implement a law like that on all 50 states and expect them all to behave the same way. So it's like, because we're such a shit show, it actually makes it a lot harder for them to force stuff like that onto us. So that's a good one.
It is a good one. Indeed, it is. And I'm
like New Hampshire. You ain't getting New Hampshire on board. No way. Deep South, we're not getting on board.
It's hard with all the federal pushback and, the fact that, I think states should be allowed just to have their control over these kind of things. And
I feel
it becomes an issue, though.
And that's with decentralized autonomous organizations, it makes you think a lot about government, right? Because it's government that you're investing into. And that's the thing too, is like it gives you like a lot of ideas on how government should be. And at the end of the day, like what freed me and my thoughts on how things should be from all that is what do we truly value with all this? And it's us as people and how we navigate in the real world. And I don't think any federal or some galactic government or state level government or I don't think any things like that should dictate how people pursue happiness and pursue a living, and that's because we deserve freedom. And then when it comes to states and federal oversight for things, it is conflicting, especially when you have like marijuana still, I think, is illegal federally. And it's just legal to go to like any state that has it and just go in and buy it. And then nobody says or does anything about it, but they can do something about it. So it's really all about who you piss off, right? And that's the thing is when it comes to, I'm seeing like all these different loopholes everywhere be abused with administration to that's going on now. And I just don't believe that people should be seeking out these loopholes to to do whatever they want to do anyways, even after people voted a certain way, or they just ignored the people who were supposed to vote on something and didn't care what they wanted anyways, and acted in their own self-interest with the illusion that it's for our best interest. So I have different viewpoints than other people do with things, but I think the best thing is especially with a decentralized autonomous organization, is it's not just about what I think, right? It's about what everybody thinks, and then a consensus coming from that. So I think these things are really cool. But these things can be a discussion for other episodes, I think. And we don't want to get into politics here. I think we all kind of have our views on how things are and how they should be. So that I definitely, if anybody has any questions on any of this, feel free to ask. And for future shows, if you would like to come on and discuss things with us, you don't have to use your name. You don't even have to show your face. Just show up and talk about whatever it is you want to talk about and give us perspective on the topics that we discuss. Because we want to hear from people like Sims. We want to hear from people like Mrs. CMS and Ecstatic J. And that's the thing, is your voice is valuable. And even if what we're saying is something that angers you, or we're completely wrong and you are completely right, hop on and tell us why you're right and why we're wrong. I want to hear that. At some point during this show, I want to hear why it is that I'm wrong about what I'm talking about, so that I can be corrected with it. Because the stuff that I'm right about is stuff that I read into and look into every day, and I wish that the stuff that I'm right about wasn't like that. I want to be wrong. So there are ways of changing things, and I think really realistically what we need in this world are heroes, more heroes. And that's the thing too, is with these heroes that are out there that are making change for us, they're leading by example. And that's the greatest thing about having these heroes out there, is that it's not some Superman's going to come save us. It's not Jesus going to come save us level stuff. It's actual real human beings that are making the honest, good effort to make things better, and not just their communities, but overall. Chris, what do you think about heroes?
I think heroes are pretty awesome, and we have a pretty awesome one for us this week.
We look for the champions leading the way. Go fight for your internet rights every day. It's freedom and justice that we truly seek. We salute the hide and speak hero of the week.
This week's Hide and Speak Hero of the Week was recommended to us by several audience members, and is someone who spent years pushing the boundaries of peaceful resistance, voluntary exchange, and real-world crypto adoption. We're spotlighting Sal the Agorist, also known as Sally Mayweather. Sal's become one of the most recognizable voices in the modern agorist movement. Through his writing, his social presence, and his relentless advocacy for counter-economics, he's helped thousands of people understand that freedom isn't just a philosophy, it's a set of daily choices, and those choices can be made right now without waiting for permission. What makes Sal stand out is his ability to take the core ideas of agorism, like voluntary trade, parallel economies, and peaceful noncompliance, and translate them into practical everyday action. He doesn't just talk about building alternatives to state-controlled systems, he shows people how to actually do it. Whether it's peer-to-peer commerce, entrepreneurship outside the traditional gatekeepers, or using cryptocurrency as real money, Sal has been a consistent, unapologetic champion of living free today. He's also been a major educator in the crypto space, especially when it comes to using digital cash as a tool for sovereignty. While a lot of the crypto world gets lost in speculation and hype, Sal keeps the focus on what matters, using decentralized money to empower individuals, strengthen communities, and reduce reliance on centralized institutions. That message aligns perfectly with what we talk about here: real-world adoption and utility, and real-world freedom. Sal's work on Agorist Nexus, his books, his posts, and his constant engagement with the Liberty community have helped shape a generation of people who don't just believe in freedom, they practice it. And that's exactly the spirit we want to highlight. Not theory, not slogan, action. So for his dedication to voluntarism, his commitment to building parallel systems, and his ongoing effort to help people take control of their own economic lives, we're proud to name Sal the Agorist as this week's Hide and Speak Hero of the Week.
Hide and Speak Hero of the Week.
Well, thank you, Sal, and thank you so much for all that you do. And it's great to know that there's these heroes out there. And that says, if we want to make the smart moves in life, what is intelligence really? It's learning new things and being able to apply it to how you live and navigate in this world, right? So I think the intelligent decision for anybody to make out there is at least listen, at least see what these guys are up to out there and check them out, and see how that can benefit your life. And if it doesn't benefit your life, see if there's anybody's lives around you that it can benefit, right? And I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Anybody have anything else they want to talk about here?
I think I'm all talked out for the day. I think I'm looking forward to our upcoming shows, and I think it's absolutely wonderful that we have guests come on here, and I think it's absolutely wonderful that people know that you can have a voice, even if you're going to stay hidden and anonymous. You're free to do that.
Absolutely.
You're
I
free
think
to
we
show
have
up.
the YouTube
Go ahead.
creator, The New Oil, coming on with us next week.
Really? A creator of what?
He's a YouTube creator called the New Oil, which is, of course, our data.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is the new oil, right? It's data brokers selling all of our data and information, and that's why we have to make that honest, good push and fight to encrypt it to save us from these people exploiting us and all the. Let me just end it with this. We're not data points in some fucking algorithm. We're human beings. And for anybody that disagrees with me out there, I'd like to hear any words as to otherwise. Value the human in this world, I think. But yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this up. If anybody has anything else to add, feel free. If not, let's give our outros there.
All set. Just one last thing. I just wanted to thank Joel again. I know he's not here anymore, but everybody, make sure you can go check out dash.org if you want to learn more about it. They got really cool things going on over there. The whole system's been overhauled recently to improve privacy, and they've also done a lot to make it a lot more usable. Having a memorable username is infinitely easier than a 600,000 digit long random garbled text. You know what I mean? So they're doing a lot. They're moving in two directions. Like, a lot of companies are either moving in the direction of usability or they're moving in the direction of privacy, and they're actually moving in both directions at the same time, which I think is really important and really cool to see. So definitely go check that out. And again, Joel himself, you go check him out on x.com, the desert links. And like you said, if you got questions for him, just hit him up. He's more than happy to answer them. He's very approachable. So if you got anything, there you go.
And that's the thing too, is I'll probably be messaging him too, or speaking more closely with him, because we are involved with the other side projects that are incorporating the DAO. But yeah, let's go ahead and plug that social hour. When's our social hour again there, Chris?
Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have social hour. It's an open panel, open mic. Everybody's welcome to join, and we just talk about whatever's going on in the world of privacy and internet freedom. So stop in. It's a great time.
Absolutely. And it's not just privacy hour either. It's multiple hours sometimes. And that's the thing about discussion is I like it when people show up and we have these discussions. It's fun. I think it's great. I like hearing the different perspectives on things, and I'm not so locked in on my engineering mind with how things are and should be. It's offering me freedom mentally.
Yeah, we had some great killer robot talk on social hour recently. We had a plate of suffering that Shane was talking about. All kinds of fun stuff.
Give me more. So give me a big fork so I can eat it all in, right? Yeah, a big old plate of suffering, and then sending us the bill for it. Here you go. Yeah. That's all right, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up, Susie. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you again, Sims, for showing up. You're always welcome here. And it's with one thing left to say is onward.
We build a safe place where the speech is always free, where cypherpunks go to just hide and speak. Hide and speak. We stay in the shadows and make some noise. Hide and speak. Digital freedom, yeah, that is our choice. Hide and speak. Privacy doesn't mean not having a voice. Hide and speak. What you want to share is only your choice. Hide and speak.
The early internet was the wild, wild west. Strange. Free. We explored, we broke things. And yes, we failed. No rules. And that was beautiful. But times have changed. We hesitate. We censor ourselves because we know they're watching. Surveillance kills curiosity, turning the internet from a frontier of hope into a cage of silence. And your VPN? It's based on trust. For let's be real, nobody has ever lied to me, said nobody ever. Yet true privacy is still within reach. vp.net doesn't rely on trust, it runs on real-time proof. Because privacy is about becoming your truest self when no one's watching. So you can be the best you when they are. Otherwise be an NPC, a digital product, and lose. vp.net, don't trust, verify.